I tell you what, I've got to say on another note, I am so bloody daunted about tonight, and I'm very, very glad that you
To
two
be
got.
honest, I was
Uh,
thinking exactly the same thing. I
I'm
mean, I've
so
I've,
glad.
I've spoken about it before, like
Well, this
umpteen
is it.
million times, but
You've
every
spoken about
yeah.
it in previous podcasts. Jack
Hmm.
has, and Jack has, I think, blogged about it.
Hmm.
Um, so you guys have got form, and boy, am I glad because the viewing that Vicky and I had a couple of nights ago, it's the first time I've seen it in years and years and years and
Oh,
years,
really?
and I loved it. Of course, I mean
Yeah.
it's an amazing film. It's one of those films that I try not to watch too often because I
Hmm.
like it very much. But I've been beating my head about so much of it because it's in some ways it it's it's very ambivalent over some of the things it's talking about, and
Uh-huh.
that's a good thing because it's knotty and it doesn't give you pat answers, but
Right.
it can also be quite frustrating when you know you've got to talk about it because
Yes.
I'm really torn on a lot of it.
Uh-huh.
So torn on so many things involved in it. And that's why I said, I think I might have to start this by sort of asking you guys a question. And then I
Uh-huh.
dropped away from that slightly later in the day. I said, no, I don't need to, because what might happen is someone will either hit on my anxiety about or anxieties about this film anyway, and we'll just get
Mhm.
into it naturally in there, or it'll just come out organically. But yeah, I've got real um, difficulties with the film.
Yeah.
Not
I
not
mean,
difficulties in the sense of I don't think I like it. I love it,
no,
but it's
it
not easy.
is.
Not
No, it
easy to.
isn't. No, it isn't. I mean, and it's so fascinating because when you look at the script, have you ever actually seen the script to Alien?
No.
It is on that awfully titled Alien quadrilogy set, it's
Oh right,
awfully
which I
titled.
owned.
Yeah, it's a great set. I mean, it's the best. It is definitely the best set of like Alien DVDs that have ever been released. There's
Mm.
hundreds of hours of
Is that the
extras,
one
and
with the assembly cut for three, isn't it?
that's the one. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one. The scripts to all of them are actually on the CDs, and the Alien script is so bare bones.
Really.
It's so unassuming. There's almost, I mean, it's almost workmanlike when you see it on the page. They had initially they had the notion of doing this science fiction horror, and none of that amazing thematic resonance that you get from just ambience, from the environments, from the design is in it. None of that is in it. All of the characters are genderless. They're all written genderless, so they could have,
Yes, I have read that. Yeah, which is germane
kind of brilliant,
to
kind of brilliant,
the this. Yeah, but
Um, but the bringing on of designers like Giger
mm,
changed the timbre of this work to
yeah.
such a degree, to such a degree.
Well, it is the power of aesthetics, isn't it? I mean, it really goes to show that whatever the content of anything, the power of its aesthetics is
Oh, I mean, and
paramount.
this is prime example. This is it. Because when you look at the script, it could have so easily just been an almost like Mario Bava style science
Yeah.
fiction B movie
Well,
horror.
I mean, you told that the acres of Planet of the Vampires in it.
Oh my god, it's like, I mean,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the series will go further with that. When you eventually come to Prometheus,
Mm,
Prometheus is Planet of the Vampires with a budget.
mm,
It's
yeah.
almost like almost beat for beat the same film.
Yeah. I
Um,
must also, but I struggle with, I mean, I cannot believe I'm going to say this word with a straight face because I hate it, but
mm,
as a franchise,
yeah.
sticks to my throat to say that.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the only real way I feel like I can engage with Alien is if I sort of imagine that none of the things from it even belong in the same continuity
I think
or
that's
canon.
wise. I
I
think that's
love, yeah,
wise, to be
there is a
honest.
big part of me which is Alien was a complete standalone.
Hmm.
I probably enjoy Prometheus more than a lot of people because although it
Hmm.
did a thing that I don't like, which is it explained away a lot of the
Like
wonderful ambiguities
everything.
of the film, um, I was quite willing to just go, yeah, but that's just a take. I don't
Hmm.
think that's definitive.
Yeah.
That's I'm just going to let Prometheus is just that Prometheus is Prometheus and Alien is
Yeah.
Alien, and
I've softened on Prometheus.
yeah,
When I first saw it, I loathed it, and I
mm,
mean, it was really powerful. My reaction to Prometheus. Um, I absolutely despised that film. I really did. And
I
it
mean, I
was
can
it
understand
was
why.
for exactly what you were saying. It's because
Yeah.
it does that. In fact, it's an entire film of doing exactly that. Nothing else, just explaining away
Yeah.
every element, every mystery, filling in the gaps where all the resonance lives. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I hated most was the way it tried to explain the technology of the space jockey of the.
Yeah.
It showed
I
you
know what
how
you're
the
talking
ship
about.
flies,
Hello,
and I'm
Jack.
like, when I saw the ship flying, I was like, "Fuck you." I
Yeah.
No.
really had this violent reaction. I was like,
Like it's
"Fuck
just a
you!"
spaceship.
Like it's just a spaceship, right? Right. And it's controlled by control panels, and
Yeah.
the wonderful sort of
I'm sorry.
bioorganic stuff is just a suit. It's only
It's
superficial.
Ah,
I
it's quite a
hated
mass
it
in the
so
pit. It's
much,
like it's
but
like
I've
the hull,
softened.
quite a mass in the pit. We don't know how that fucker flies, and that's part of the
Right.
strength. If indeed it does fly, or whether it
Well,
just
in
transposes,
Alien, I mean,
or it's
in
always been there.
Alien,
And the same thing.
we don't know that's a ship.
We don't know that's a ship. No,
no.
no, and
Is
that's the
that even a fucking ship?
Is
yeah.
it a ship? Part of it's buried, under. It's seemingly buried, like in that rock.
Hmm.
There could be like depths to it, like
You could
burrowing into the
look at
mountain,
It's
or
an
it's
observatory, or maybe a weapons, or like a defense. What is that
Mhm.
thing? Is it a cannon, or is it a telescope, or
Right.
is it nothing
yeah.
like anything we can make an analogy to?
Well, this is the
Or is it?
wonderful thing
It's like
about
a.
that
It's like an
design.
animal, isn't it? It's like a worm. It's like a. It does. Does it? If it's a vehicle of some kind, does it sort of wind its way through the guts of the universe?
This is
Mm.
what I'm
Mm.
thinking. I mean, I see it in Lovecraftian terms. If it is a
Yeah.
vehicle, then it doesn't fly. It doesn't like
No.
breach the
No.
atmosphere or anything
It
like that.
burrows through reality in some
Yes,
way, doesn't it?
yes, that's exactly it. It materializes. It jumps through like quantum states and conditions.
And
That's the
frankly,
way I see it.
it's also a pair of legs akimbo
Of
waiting penetration.
it's Giga, isn't it? Of course, with
Oh
eggs,
God.
with a womb with eggs inside of it. Of course, it's Giga, isn't it? Yeah, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously, right?
The whole thing is covered in orifices and
Oh my! Well, it's I don't know whether you've ever gotten any of the Taschen HR Giga books, the collections of his art.
grew up on them. Grew
Yeah,
up on them.
I mean, wow, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
was saying to George just before you arrived, Jack, that I said I'm so glad that you guys have got some form on Alien, because I watched it the other night with Vicky for the first time in years, because it is one of those special films that I don't wish to watch all the time. I have it banked for every
We're
few.
not recording, by the way,
Oh,
just in case.
I am.
You
Just
are. Oh,
yeah, but I will do the recording on this as well. Hang on, when I can find the button. There we are.
okay.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Thank you, mother.
Sorry to break in there.
No, no, it's good to know. And
What is it Ripley calls her? You bitch.
you bet.
Yeah.
But I sort of reached the end of this viewing for the first time in years. I went, oh my god, I'm so glad George and Jack have got form on this, because I'm going to have to be like mentee, because I found this so tricky. It's
Yeah.
too big.
It
You could
is.
do
It
a
is.
season of podcasts on
That's
this
the
and
problem,
still.
Yeah.
right?
It's vast.
That is the problem of coming to talk about this material. I mean, you look at it in literal terms, and it's fair. You look at the story, look at it on the surface level, fairly simple. You start to
Yeah.
delve into the symbolism, the design of the thing. And it's not just Giga's influence either. It's the other designers they brought on to design the internals of the Nostromo, and then
It's
you
the
have
contrast, isn't it? It's the contrast between
right.
Giga and Ron Cobb. That's
Yes.
absolutely key to it. Because Ron Cobb is an amazing technical designer, an
Yeah.
amazing technical production designer.
Oh, it's
But
beautiful.
Ron Cobb actually did what do they call it? Concept art for the alien ship. And Ron Cobb was a genius,
Yeah.
but it's crap because that wasn't what Ron Cobb was good at. Ron Cobb makes the inside of that spaceship look absolutely authentic. You feel like that thing could fly through space. Really, genuinely, you do. And it's full of detail. And
Oh, honestly, the
it's
technology, the
but
Direct line
internals of the
from
Nostromo.
the
Yeah.
NASA shuttle technology of that era just projected forward, so it feels properly authentic.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
this is where it starts, and this is how he, as a designer, is reasonably projecting forward into the time period it's in.
It
And
feels so legitimate. All of it feels
yeah,
so legitimate. When you've got the
So real.
characters
Yeah.
like, twiddling dials and talking about, oh, we've got to balance this and blah, 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 doing the Star Trek stuff effectively, or the Doctor Who stuff, it
Yeah.
feels so much more
all the
legitimate.
telemetry and things like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
convincing.
it's always the self-destruct mechanism that gets me, with sort of
Oh,
this system of tubes that have to
I'm
be pushed
obsessed
in,
with it.
and
I'm
yeah.
obsessed with it. Like the way there's these things that unscrew, and then you've got to screw them in to bring
Yes.
up the nodes. And then there's like a sliding piece that she needs to activate on each one of
Yes.
the nodes that comes up. And it's like, I it doesn't need that level of detail. The film did not need that level of detail. It
Didn't
could have
need it,
just, it
but
didn't. No, it
it
could have just been the
it's so
levers on the
much
wall. But
richer
my
for it.
God, it makes the world feel so weighty and so legitimate. And the fact that the actors are treating it as a real environment, they're treating it with such sincerity. There's no irony here, or none
oh
of
my
that
God, the
very,
act, man.
you
I mean,
know.
there was something I noticed in the. This is just a side. I know we'll
Hmm.
get into like bigger concerns, but there was one moment, and I was just so impressed with Veronica Cartwright because she did that thing that good actors do, which is she conveyed the maximum information and backstory about her character and another character in a single glance, and it was the realization that. Um, she's in the foreground, but not quite in focus. And Kane is in the background talking to Dallas, and he
Mm,
volunteers to go outside.
yeah.
And he shoots a look which is loaded with, "You're such the fucking golden boy, aren't you?
Yeah.
Of course you would want to go out." And it's all done in one glance. You think, well, that's their entire back history there. That's their quietly bubbling and antagonism, or how she perceives him.
Yeah.
And he would even be aware that she thinks this of him, but it's just in one glance, and it's peppered with things like that.
Oh, it's
That's what
so
Yeah.
much
Like
part of
very
why this works. It's so much part of why the whole works. It's so elegant in the way it conveys the politics aboard this ship and the interpersonal dynamics between the characters. There's no fluff. There's no filler at all. You're just dropped in. It's almost voyeuristic the way it's shot. You are just
the opening
watching
is
these people.
like cinema verite. It's like a fly on the wall documentary.
Right.
Which I think Ridley Scott would have been very familiar with that, because there was a
Hmm.
real vogue for fly on the wall documentaries in British television in the 60s and 70s.
Of
So he would
course.
have seen a lot of these shows like Seven Up and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And he brings that sensibility to the way he films this, particularly in the early sequences. It's startling. If
It's
you
a
see this, my story with this is that I saw the second one first. I saw Aliens
really.
first, as I think
Oh
as I
wow.
think a lot
I
of people of my age
Yeah,
probably did, because it was on
Right.
TV.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was the big action movie and all
yeah.
that sort of thing. And then there was the VHS release of the special edition, which I
Hmm.
bought, and I loved it so much at the time. My opinion has changed a little bit since, but I
Hmm.
loved it so much at the time that I went and this was just before the third one was released, so there was like this quick
Wow.
succession of me seeing all three of these: Alien special edition, then the original Alien, and then the third one at the cinema. And it was a quick burst of just instant. It was just love at first sight, the
Yeah.
whole thing. And but watching the first one, I mean, I was very young, but I was conscious at the time that the second one is a great kick-ass action movie with some
Yeah.
interesting stuff going on in it. And then you watch the first one, and I was conscious at the time, at 17 or however old I was, oh, this is something different. This
Yes.
is something else.
Yeah.
You know, I
Totally.
had a book which I think my grandmother picked up at a jumble sale, and uh, it was an annual style book, just going through the history of horror and science fiction right back to the 20s. So the German Expressionist
I
era.
I had books like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the last page, it went up to the 70s, and the last page was 1979, and it was a full page photograph of
Oh, God.
Dallas, Kane, and Lambert going into the orifice. And that image, because it was before I'd seen Alien, that image was something I would just stare at as a kid, thinking, I don't know what's going on here, but I can't take my eyes off this photograph. And then, of
Wow.
course, finally saw Alien, which is a sort of similar age, Jack. I was about 16, 17. Yeah. And then it was like, oh my God, this is that photograph.
I had a very similar book when I was a kid. I had this book called The Encyclopedia of Horror, which was full of, the text is quite good, actually. I've still got it. And it's full of illustrations, right? It's full of almost all the quintessential iconography of what we think of as the history of horror, from the famous woodcut of Vlad the Impaler through stills from
Literally got this book
Caligari
behind me,
and
Jack. I've got it behind me on the shelf.
yeah,
The Encyclopedia of Horror goes right,
Superb.
starts talking
well,
about the woodcuts and Varney the Vampire and goes right through. Full of
all that, and you
photographs.
know that that has a full page picture of Giger's alien from the first
Yeah.
movie in it towards the end. And like you, I was fascinated by that picture as a very
Oh,
young kid.
I mean, it's a familiar story for me. I grew up with this film. It in fact, it may be one of the very first films I ever saw.
Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah, it very well may be. It's this and Labyrinth are the oldest films in my memory. I don't know when I first saw it. I actually can't remember a time without it. It's just always been there. It's ambient. It's
Hmm.
part of my existence. It's part of my
That
imaginative life. Um,
I have movies like that. I think we talked about this when we talked about
mm,
Jaws. Jaws was
yes,
just always there for me.
Yeah.
yeah.
It just yeah.
We had, I mean, it's the old story. It's the mum's VHS set. Yes, you've all heard it. Everyone's heard it. We had Alien and Aliens on VHS. And I don't I don't know when I first saw it, but I was very young. I was ridiculously young. And I just images from it are embedded. Do you know when you have those memories that feel like the moments when you burst into full consciousness?
Hmm.
Mm,
Some of the images from this film are that for me.
mm.
The images towards the end of Ripley running through the corridors of the Nostromo and the camera's in front of her and pulling back, those moments are just part of my mind.
The
I
Alien
can't
also
divorce them.
has the distinction of doing that, but one of the other Alien films has the distinction of doing something else, which is I remember my first encounter with Alien 3 was around the time of my encounter with Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and
Oh,
those two
wow.
taken together, they started me on a different way of getting to grips with film. I started to think about films in different ways because of those two films.
Yeah.
That's when my teenage mind became alerted to the idea of film as artifice, as art, as something
Yes.
that was made
Well,
and produced and edited. And those two films, Fire Walk with Me and Alien 3, are the two most watched films from my adolescent period. It was sort
superb.
of 13, 14, 15, 16.
Uh-huh.
Those two
Hmm.
films were watched more than
Well,
anything, from not only from the point of view of adoring what they were doing, or somewhat being slightly unsettled by what they were doing as well, but being fascinated by the way they were working as pieces of art, and from them discovering other films and how they worked as.
Yes, well, I had a bit of a renaissance with the Alien. Again, that word franchise, hate it, but the Alien franchise, the Alien films. It
hmm.
was so ambient for the longest time that it became almost normalized. The alien is the alien. It exists in its own little sphere, and that's it. It's part of the world, like rain or clouds or whatever. So I didn't watch the films for the longest time. And then I came back to them in my teens. And I distinctly remember I was about 13, 14, and it was a whim. It was a complete whim. I saw the videos on the shelves and I was like, haven't seen Alien for a long time, or Aliens. I'll watch them both.
Mm.
And it was one of those moments of critical awakening, watching Alien again at that age and realizing that this is something else. This is a work of sublime genius. There is so much going on here, and
Yeah.
it's starting to do things to me. It's starting to send my mind down these labyrinths of thought and idea that it's never been down before.
And it does that thing talked about with so many of the pieces we've covered, it starts in schlock and then it
Right.
elevates itself to something sublime.
Well,
I
once
mean, it
again,
is
the
basically
script,
Jaws in space. It's basically a
the script is really bare bones. The script could go either way. It could have very easily just been a very Mario Bava style kind of science fiction horror, like Planet of the Vampires, which it obviously references and it derives from quite a lot. In fact, there are entire shots that this film takes from Mario Bava's Planet of the Vampires, obviously with a much bigger budget than Planet of the
I know
Vampires.
I adore Planet of the. I mean, I love that film. I've got a
I
real soft
love it
spot.
to bits.
You've
Yes.
got to
Yeah.
you've got to sit there and go. There's only 19 years between
Mm,
Planet of the Vampires and Alien.
yeah,
What the?
well, I
It's that
was
speed.
I mean, not to
Everything
be
was going.
too, not to be too self-professing, but I actually was invited to write an article for the insert of the latest Blu-ray of Planet of the
Yes.
Vampires. Yeah,
Yes.
it was great fun. I was so pleased, and I watched it alongside
Oh, see, less than that.
Prometheus.
I'm so sorry. I've given you a bum steer, gents. I just had to quickly Google it because I thought, is it 1960 or is it a bit? No, there's 14 years between it and
Whoa.
it. Now that's staggering.
In cinema, that's a lifetime. That's like in cinema,
That's
that's a
I mean, not
generations.
lot.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not, 14. If you do the backward 14 years ago, of course, for various reasons, things don't. But the speed at which technology, the speed at which
Yeah.
economies of scale were working and everything. Planet of the Vampires is like 14 years the senior of Alien. That's nuts.
yeah, it's
You know,
mad, isn't it?
that's a really interesting point. There is a feeling now that culture just doesn't progress or change or evolve
Yeah.
as much or as quickly as it used to, isn't
Oh,
there?
the notion of like
Look
cultural
at
stagnation, yeah, that sort of end of history thing. Yeah,
yes.
absolutely,
If you look
absolutely.
at a film from 14 years ago from our point of view, you'll be able to, it'll have markers of its moment
Hmm.
about it, certainly. But unless it's a particularly of its moment film, I think we talked about the remake of The Omen as
Hmm.
being an example of a film that is tremendously of its moment. You couldn't
Yes.
possibly mistake it for any other. You do get films like that, but a lot of the time, I think if you looked at a movie that's 14 years ago from our point of view now in 2026, it wouldn't look all that different to. If it was a product
No,
of the mainstream culture industries, it wouldn't look all that different from
no.
a product of the mainstream culture industries today, because culture has just stopped progressing. It's just
Yeah.
stopped evolving to a huge extent. You couldn't possibly say that about the 14-year difference between, two films made in the 60s and 70s.
No, well, look at the difference between films produced in the early 70s and even like the late 70s, early 80s is staggering. It's
Yeah.
absolutely
Well, I
insane.
mean, using Cushing as a marker, there's only a few years difference between the last Frankenstein movie that he did for Hammer
Mhm.
and Star Wars, but they look like products of completely different civilizations.
Yeah,
And what people
insane, right?
forget that Star Wars, the original one, the 77 one, um, wasn't actually made on that much money.
No, it's
Right.
cheap.
It was
Yeah.
a sort of, I think the special effects compounded the budget. I think that's where it sort of, the miniatures, actually doing the miniatures, that's where it started to, overrun. But the actual just shooting actors on sets,
Hmm.
Yeah.
it was a superior B movie
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
its
Yeah.
budget.
Absolutely.
And yet,
And it's
Well,
look,
it,
not
it recruits. It's shot at Elstree or whatever,
yeah,
and it's recruiting local. It's full of people like Don Henderson and Leslie
Mhm.
Schofield and people like
Yeah,
that. It's
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
fact,
Right. It's mad.
if you see
yeah,
footage, the sort of the video footage, not the film footage, not the properly framed, properly lit film, but the footage that people would take to do a sort of running log of what was being done per day, which they were shooting on videotape. It just looks like a 1977 Doctor Who episode. It's
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly what it looks
it
like.
does.
Plastic sets, nylon costumes,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
nothing more. But
That's
obviously, the difference is where it's lit when it's lit and shot on that film, and then single camera changes everything.
It's
That's
not
one of the
just
interesting things about the distance in time now between us and a lot of classic Doctor Who is that you look at it and you can tell obviously that it's a lot cheaper than the science fiction being made for the cinema of the time, but it still fundamentally looks the same. It looks similar. If you watch, for instance, David Lynch's Dune, which is a movie that I love despite its many flaws, it looks like a very, very expensive episode of 1980s Doctor Who. It just
Exactly
does.
what it looks like.
Now, and of course, at the time in the 1980s, when I was a young Doctor Who fan, Doctor Who looked so cheap and nasty compared to the stuff I was seeing at the cinema. But now I look at those two things that seemed so different then, and they just look like they look almost identical, except for a slight budget difference compared to how things work now. I mean,
Yeah, I mean
And
that
funnily enough, you
issue.
can watch old Doctor Who episodes from the early 80s and go, wow, these look like the sets from Alien. And then you realise they are the sets.
They are.
They are.
Yeah, they absolutely
Fine,
are. Yes.
They got them
My fellow Transformers fans love to point out that, like, if you look very closely at some of the technology, particularly in Aliens, there are Transformers toys melded into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But that homogeneity that you're sort of talking about, where stories and cultural artifacts are not changing or progressing, or there's a sort of like standard language of the way things, a prescribed language of the way things are meant to be and the way stories are. It's not only more profound now, but it seems to be escalating. So we're just getting like remake after remake of popular franchises or of nostalgia pieces.
Yes.
And
things
it is
come around
troubling.
so quickly, don't they? They get
Yeah.
endlessly reboot. You know, like I don't
it's
know.
really troubling.
We have the new Batman now with Robert Pattinson, which, aside from being just a terrible movie in its own right,
Yeah, mate, I don't know how I made it through that.
it's just too soon. It's too much too soon.
We have the new examples of the Alien films, right?
Yes, well, yeah,
Which
absolutely.
sometimes have interesting elements. Like Romulus had some interesting elements, but then it did that
I still
awful
haven't
thing.
seen it.
It starts off really well. It's got insane promise. The opening is fantastic. And then it all falls to pieces. It cannot resist telling you, oh, you're watching an Alien film. It keeps winking at you, like it keeps reproducing shots from this film and Aliens and Alien 3. And it's like, fucking stop it.
The immediate sequel to Prometheus, Alien, whatever it was called,
Covenant.
I can't remember what it was called.
My
Covenant,
God.
that's right.
Covenant.
That, I mean, I saw that, and aside from Catherine Waterston just being gorgeous to look at under any circumstances, there was just nothing there. It was, and it's Ridley Scott, who is, whatever you think of him, he's got to be considered one of the major artists of our era.
Usually, even when he makes bad films, he is visually interesting, at least, isn't it? You know, his bad films.
This is what's so startling about Covenant. It's so incestuous. He's copying Alien. He's copying his own style from '79.
Yeah, and it's so frictionless, Covenant.
I remember sitting in the cinema watching him mimic shots and mimic musical cues and thinking, why?
Why are you doing
What's
this?
This for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who or what is this for? Covenant feels to me like a film that nobody wanted to really make.
There's no reason for that to exist. No reason
there's
at all.
None. And it's frictionless. It's this odd film where I very rarely forget stories. I mean, like, I can recall episodes of cartoons from when I was a kid, you know, like in very distinct detail. Every single time I watch Covenant, few months, I've forgotten it. And like really profound details, I just forget.
I saw it once in the cinema, and I remember barely nothing about it, aside from, as I say, that persistent, weird, irritating thing that it does of copying the original film.
Yeah, you would hate Romulus. You would hate it. I hated it. By the end of it, I was watching it and I was literally snarling at the screen. I know I'm watching an Alien film. Stop reminding me. Stop reminding me. You know, it can't help itself. And it feels like what it does is it creates this sense that it has no faith in itself. It has no faith in its own story. So it's got to constantly remind you, oh, you're watching an Alien film. And that's an interesting thing, isn't it? It's the fact that there's so much time between now and the original Alien, since 1979, that the notion of what an Alien film is has become mythic. It's become enshrined in culture. So we all know what the beats and the rhythms of an Alien film are.
And also, I want to hear what Rob has to say, but I just want to say this very quickly. The original trilogy, which feels like a distinct thing to me, is distinguished by the extreme individuality of each installment.
Yeah.
Each third of it, so to speak, is incredibly
Just
different, despite the fact that
remarkably.
the second one does actually nod in various ways to the first. It makes visual references to the first in many, but it's still very visually distinct. It's very
Yes.
distinct in tone. They all are. So one of the characteristic features of the Alien trilogy, which is how I think of it, is that all the three parts of it are very individual.
Yes, they're their own strange experiments, aren't they? Their own
To the point
bespoke
where I think
experiments.
they're best read as existing in separate
Yes.
Oh
continuities.
my God! What did I say
Yeah,
before Jack turned up,
in the
George?
pre-chat. Yeah,
That's
yeah, and
exactly what I said.
I
That the
completely
only way,
agree.
and I extend that to Prometheus as well. The only way I can properly appreciate all these various installments of Alien until you get to things like Covenant, where it just sort of goes off the rails,
Yeah.
is to view them as being almost separate
Agreed.
continuities.
Yes.
Agreed. I can enjoy Prometheus if I think of it as completely disconnected
Yes,
from
I
the
agree.
original Alien, which is the exact opposite of what it's trying to do.
Of what it's trying
If
to
I,
do. Yes.
It wants to
yeah,
explain Alien,
if
and
I,
it's like, no, I'm rejecting that. You are something else. Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. It's the
yeah,
only way to do it, really. I mean, and it's very difficult because Prometheus and Covenant both consistently remind you, like from scene to scene, oh, you're watching an Alien film. And we're trying
yes.
to explain everything about that film. And, I can't believe that Ridley Scott was involved with it. As those films are, as the scripts were, I can't believe he agreed to be involved with them because what they
Wow.
do is so sinful. It's so sinful. The
Let's be
original,
honest. It's the pocketbook leading
of
the
course it
heart, isn't
is. Of
it?
course it is. I
It's
mean, it
like
can't be anything else. It can't be anything else. It's not
releasing
artistic merit.
the Alien director's cut.
Hmm.
With the sort of accompanying flim flam about, oh, I've decided that actually the cocoon sequence doesn't disrupt the rhythm of the end. It's just, I'm sorry, but we all know what's going on here.
Yeah, of
You
course. I
know, the
mean,
studio wanted to make a load of money, and you wanted
yeah.
to make a load of money, and you
And,
thought releasing a director's cut with the extra scenes put back in would make a load of money. So
mhm.
miraculously, your artistic judgment has shifted on
Well,
this one.
completely skewed
Plus,
because what the director's cut does is it again it does what Prometheus does. It fills in those gaps, and those gaps are where resonance lives. That's
Yeah.
what's so brilliant about this film, the original Alien. There are these moments where you just don't know what
That's what
happens.
I love the way Brett and Dallas just fucking
Oh, they're
disappear.
just gone,
mm,
and
It's
there's no
so
like
eerie and
with
uncanny and
Dallas.
unsettling.
There's no blood either.
No,
So
mm.
what does it do to him? What you
yeah,
just don't know what this thing is
just
doing.
don't
And I
know.
love and oh my god, with Lambert, when all you see is that tuberance curling up
Really
around
horrible.
her leg, and
Really
you're
horrible.
like, oh my god, what is that implying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What is going on there? And then you hear that awful sound she makes over the intercom.
yes.
It's
Oof.
oh my god. Given all of like the rape imagery that we've already been given from this
Yeah,
film,
yeah,
it's oh Jesus. I don't even want to know. And when Ripley finds her in the cinematic cut, all you see are her legs dangling with blood dripping
yes.
down them, and that's all you see. It's a moment. It's like just a blink and you'll miss it moment, and that's what sends Ripley running as well. Whatever it's done to Lambert, it's oh my god, it's horrific.
It's too much to be born. It's too much
Yeah,
to be contemplated.
it
It's,
is. It's
yeah.
vile. It's and I'm so freaked out always by the shot that precedes that. You know when you see the alien and it's moving towards her, but it's moving its arms like it's almost swimming, or it's so weird. What is it doing?
That
It's approaching
physical
her in a
performance by that young man who was
oh
just spotted by chance in the pub.
yeah right.
The physical performance is extraordinary.
It's one of alongside Giger's design. It's one of the things that makes this so much more than a guy in a rubber alien suit.
Mm.
It's got such character. It's got so much going on under the hood.
Well, I think it's another case of, I mean, Ridley Scott is obviously he's responsible for a huge amount of why this film turns out to be what it is. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about that, because
Yeah.
he has, at this point in his career, he is an extremely thoughtful and interesting cinematic artist, and he goes into this determined to do something more than just make a monster B movie,
Yeah.
to do something interesting with it. And part of why he manages to do that is actually to do with the fact that he assembles around himself so many extraordinarily interesting collaborators. It's
Yes.
one of it's a property of genius, actually,
Yeah.
that
Especially for
you
Well,
can
directors.
select
yeah.
great collaborators to work with. It's why The Shining is the masterpiece that it is. Kubrick assembles around him this triumvirate of genius women: Shelley Duvall, Wendy Carlos, and Diane Johnson, who lift this into a new
Into a new dimension.
arena.
Yeah.
And Ridley Scott does something similar with Alien, because he is, firstly, the cast is one of the most perfect casts in cinema history. The cast
Yeah.
is just
It's unreal,
exquisite.
isn't it? It's
Yeah, and
unreal.
it
And they do so
lifts
much work.
the
They are doing
strangeness of
so
it,
much work.
and yet the aptness of every piece of casting. It lifts the film into something extraordinary by itself. But he also, of course, chooses to hire, as we've said, Ron Cobb and H.R. Giger, both of whom are genius designers, but in completely different ways,
Yeah.
to represent two completely different realities, essentially
Yeah.
smushing into each other.
I think
And
it's
he
really
also, of course,
understated, to be
hires.
honest. You know,
Yes, he also
Ron
hires Jerry
Cobb,
Goldsmith.
of
Jerry
course.
Goldsmith is another crucial part of why this film is what
That
it is.
But there's
score.
sort of
His
two
score is
things
extraordinary.
that strike me about what you've just said, Jack. Is that firstly, that's where genius becomes, to coin, well, not to coin a word, to use a word coined by Brian Eno, genius becomes scenius. It's the scene, it's the group. But also, I think the other factor that comes into play is the time when it was done, and then the third factor is, I think, probably what happened with Ridley Scott is unfortunately what happens to an awful lot of artists. It's very difficult trajectory not to go through, which is eventually your craft catches up and then overtakes your artistry, and then you produce things like Romulus or
Yeah.
Covenant,
Covenant.
because suddenly and I also totally accept what you're saying about remuneration, and I can make money out of this, but there's an exciting point, I think, in all artists' lives, whether they're directors of film, or they're designers, or they're musicians, or whatever, or writers, when their ambition is not yet quite matched by their craft. Then you get a crackle. Then you get something exciting. Once the craft overtakes the energy or the ambition, then it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, it's all right. Well, we know where we are again. And I think this is the thing. Ridley Scott, at this point, he has the capacity to cast not just actors, but designs everyone, and therefore genius becomes scenius. But he's still not such a master of his craft yet that it's kind of made his artistry stodgy.
Yeah,
If
well, it
that
was
makes
still
kind of
quite
sense.
callow at this point, wasn't he? I mean, he'd had some work, but this was the biggest thing he'd ever worked on. This was the
There's
one
still a
where,
sense with Alien that it's as brilliant and accomplished as though it is, that it's still kind of reaching for something.
yeah,
You're left with a trace at the end, a trace element. This is a film which is reaching for and not getting it because it's crap or deficient in any way, but just because it is reaching so high.
yeah,
And then,
yeah,
unfortunately, I think for a lot of artists, once they've truly understood their craft, it's very easy just to let your craft do the work, let your technical proficiency do the work. And I wonder if that's what happened a bit with Ridley Scott. I don't know if I'm making a whole lot of sense in that explanation, but
Well, I
No,
mean,
I I, I
having
agree.
have you seen the interviews with Ridley Scott on the various DVDs and whatnot? I mean, it's really fascinating hearing him talk about this project, because he was very young when he came onto this set, and he hadn't done that much work, but he was really bolshy. He had that young director's energy about him, where
Yes.
he was
He's
kind of like,
famously hard to get on with in this early part of
yes,
his career. I mean, Harrison Ford talks about what an asshole he was on the
yes,
set of Blade Runner, and
yeah,
Giger writes about this in his book about the making of Alien. He writes
yes,
about respecting Ridley Scott, but also finding him a serious pain in the arse to work with.
Giger, by all accounts, was a very mellow, very retiring, and quite shy person.
Yes.
So someone with the energy of Ridley Scott. There were clashes there, definitely.
But
But again, it was
this
his idea. It was Ridley Scott's idea to bring Giger on. You know, he had a book of Giger's art, and that decision. I mean, man, that decision. It's not just what it did for this film; it's what it did for culture, right?
Oh,
because
it changed the world.
It changed the world. It literally changed the world, because suddenly it's not just the alien that becomes mythic. It's Giger. It's Giger's work. It's catapulted, if not into the mainstream, then at least into sort of like the areas of cult interest where it would be known.
Yes. There isn't a single science fictional creature created after this for visual art that isn't in some way referring to this, that hasn't got this on its mind somehow. Not a single one. You can see it in classic Doctor Who. You can see the attempts to do something a bit like what they do in Alien in classic Doctor Who stories, and the results are often frankly risible, I'm afraid, but they're trying because they're so inspired by it. And it obviously it echoes down through I mean, Species, obviously, loads of things hired him to do his stuff for them, Poltergeist 2.
Of course.
But it's the influence is there in Independence Day, it's there in the Star Trek movies that come after this.
And beyond film. I mean, its impact on Giger's impact on rock music.
Oh,
not just rock video form, but the aesthetics of sleeve art and the aesthetics of bands. And
he did work with Debbie Harry, didn't he? He did work with Korn and all sorts of different musical artists. He produced things like microphone stands and stage sets and all sorts of things.
On sort of subgenres like the industrial rock scene and things like that. Giger just changed.
I know it's not your guys' area, but video games.
Yeah.
I mean, God, after Alien came
I'm aware enough to know, and I'm not that aware of video games, but I'm aware enough to know the impact that Giger had on the aesthetics of video games. My God,
there are video games that were created as a direct attempt to just basically make a video game version of Alien that wasn't Alien.
Metroid, isn't it?
Metroid.
I've never played it. But I know this just from cultural osmosis, just from listening to people talk about this.
Was an attempt essentially to make a video game of Alien, but without it actually being Alien. And Metroid has become an urtext in video games as much as Alien is in cinema. It's a fantastic series of video games. And also, Metroid, it sort of derived its gender politics from Alien. So it's one of the very first science fiction horror video games to have a female protagonist, Samus Aran. And the player didn't know that until the end of the game.
Yeah, see, again, I've never played it, but I know all this from cultural osmosis, listening to other people talk about it.
So great, right? And if you look at video games throughout, like the 80s, because copyright just wasn't as significant back then, and there wasn't like the laws applying to video games that there were to other forms of art, very many video games just lift the Alien wholesale, the imagery of Alien, and just put it in. It's just there. The Alien is a monster in so many video games, it's unreal. Giger's designs become levels and backgrounds and whatnot. And in fact, Giger himself was officially licensed to create a number of video games. Darkseid, which was a British video game, point-and-click adventure, it's made from Giger's artwork. Like almost entirely, the sets, the backgrounds. It's just Giger's artwork digitized and rendered and animated.
Giger is an example of an artist who wears his influences very much on his sleeve. He wears the influence of Dali. He wears the influence of H.P. Lovecraft.
This
is all
Lovecraft
colliding.
Is huge. It's huge. I mean, it's one of his first. One of his first famous series was called the Necronomicon, right?
Yes.
In fact, isn't the Alien one of the Necronomicon paintings? It was originally, I believe.
Right.
I think so. Yeah,
I think it was originally,
and that's where, that's where Ridley Scott's decision to hire this Swiss surrealist airbrush artist is genuinely a touch of genius, because
Total genius.
you're looking at something that is on the page a science fiction potboiler, a sort of harking back to
Yep.
the B movies of the 50s.
Yep.
And you would be completely within your rights, at least in that sense, to go with Ron Cobb's sort of adorably straightforward concept art for the alien spaceship and the alien itself.
Yeah.
But instead, Ridley Scott thinks, well, let's bring in somebody who's thinking about Lovecraft and Aleister Crowley and things like that instead.
And gender and sex and birth imagery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is probably, I don't know, consciously or unconsciously, that aspect of the script is probably the impetus, the thing that made calling in Giga seem appropriate.
Well, it changes the timbre of the film as well as the aesthetics, doesn't it? The whole thing takes on an entirely new resonance just because of that imagery. The design of the face hugger, which is essentially a vagina on legs, and then the alien itself, which is a giant penis with teeth. It's it's insane. It's
The
absolutely
notes
insane.
the notes from the script writers were like, we want the alien to be really horrifying. We want it to be, I think the words they use in their notes for Giga are, we want it to be a profane abomination.
Yes.
But they also say something like, we were thinking of something like a gigantic malformed baby, which ties in a lot with a lot of 70s horror. We've talked about this in the past. There's a lot of 70s horror that concentrates on children
It's the
and
pedophobic
babies.
horror, basically.
Yeah. Giga doesn't do that at all.
No.
But it shows that the theme of the natal is very consciously present, even in the scriptwriters. The theme of sort of centering horror on the idea of natality. Giga goes right to just penetrative sex as the source of natality, of reproduction, doesn't he? And he just puts that all over the screen.
The alien is incredibly beautiful.
Yes,
it is beautiful.
And
yes, that's another thing about Giga's art. He
Yeah.
creates these things that are simultaneously horrifically ugly and beautiful.
And beautiful at the same time, yeah.
And the thing that is very easy to come away with is because, so much of the film's about shed loads, but because there's this part of the film which is about, runaway corporate power and slavery. I mean, Nostromo, Joseph Conrad, hello.
Yeah, of course.
It's the race thing. The Nostromo effectively becomes a slaver's ship, and it goes and it picks up this tall black creature, played by this beautifully tall black creature, although we never see him because he's under layers of makeup, and it becomes, for a part of its narrative, this sort of curious slave revolt fantasy.
Yes, the Nostromo becomes the Amistad.
Assegai warrior or something. It's rendered in via Giga's lens.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? Because it's like you said earlier, Elliot. There is like an ambivalence to that built in, because of course in this scenario, the slavers, the white slavers, are also slaves to the system. They, these people are the crew of the Nostromo, are bits of grit in the system themselves. It's never made a muchness of. There's no moment where they're sat around talking about like what the politics that they're operating under actually are. But that they're nothing. These people.
Well, it's so harmonic. I mean, I think I love the tantalizing stuff we get about the company or the corporation.
Yes.
Almost certainly a monopoly, something that certainly acts beyond government, given what it is operation here. And when Vicky and I were watching it, I was saying, this is really fascinating because obviously there is still class hierarchy in this future. They're talking about their pay grades and their bonuses. I said, but you mentioned it earlier. You mentioned the G word earlier of gender. Gender's exploded here. And I said to Vicky made a point. She said, "Well, it's a great way for the company to save money, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "Well, it doesn't have to consider on the Nostromo overheads like separate facilities for its
Mm,
workers, separate work uniforms, separate cryo chambers. There's
right.
no need for forenames. No one's got a forename. So there's no disparity between male and female, men and women. They're just workers."
Yes,
And it's
that's
like,
it.
yeah, we've got labor. All they've got to do is provide labor power. And so we were chatting about it between ourselves, and we sort of said, the company can distract from what it's doing, and boy is it doing a lot, as we find
Mm,
out via Mother. Um, and it can have its working stiffs squabble about their bonuses like every company ever. But the really interesting thing about the top of this movie is that there's no use for gender as a means to create
right.
hierarchy. I mean, that there may be a race dimension because the only black character is depicted as this necessary but underpaid kind of working stiff, although
Hmm.
his compatriot is white. But the company saves money by incubating, ha 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 ha, this kind of genderless future. And I
Yes.
thought, oh, this is a really interesting tension because on one hand, you can look into this film going, oh, well, here we are, we're in the future, and
Hmm.
suddenly the gender binaries, they've been somewhat exploded. And of course, the out of the film is about this woman who survives.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and yet, this has been uh, this has been developed by a corporation whose only concern is to turn profit, and its only
Right.
concern is labor. And I just think Vicky hit upon this great point, which was, yeah, well, it's much easier for the company just to treat everyone as working
As
stiffs
a
and
resource,
really
right?
take one of the the disparities, the social disparities, out of the equation.
Hmm.
Just reduce everyone to working stiffs and
Right.
just have them in a hierarchy of class.
Yeah.
That can
So,
occupy them. They don't have to worry about a hierarchy of gender, and therefore the company saves shitloads of money because it
yeah.
doesn't have to provide separate facilities. It doesn't
Right.
have to provide anything.
It doesn't have to consider gender, does it? Or
No,
sex or anything like that.
what
It's
initially feels like, hey,
meaningless.
this is pretty cool, this is pretty groovy, we've got
Yeah.
women in positions of power. Women here are clearly on higher wages than some of the men, it's 1979, for Christ's sake. Um, Hang on, no, the company is hegemonic. This just
Mm.
serves the company's needs. This is
It's
cynical.
a yeah, it's a sort of dark utopianism, isn't it? A
Yeah,
corporate utopianism where the gender binary has collapsed. Yay, wonderful. But as a result, not as a result of that, but it's an expression of humanity being reduced to nothing but a resource.
exactly. And then of course the working stiffs are expendable.
Yeah.
But it's really, I mean, it's one of the things about the film that um, I love how naughty it is
Yeah,
because
because symbolically that's really interesting because gender is externalized, isn't it, within the script?
oh,
Gender comes crashing back through the alien.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
exactly. But I'm not sure, and I don't consider this a weakness because as we've discussed many times, a film doesn't have to be, or any text doesn't have to be sort of obviously progressive for it to be effective. And
Mhm.
I think there's lots about this film which is strangely ambivalent, and that in some ways is a strength. And of course, we always have to remember with all these things that it is a product of the capitalist entertainment industry, and it's been
Yeah.
made by predominantly a bunch of white middle-aged straight men. So
Mm.
that has always got to be factored in. But I did think as I was watching it um, about this whole thing about these working stiffs. And yes, there's very obvious, that doesn't denigrate it, but there's very obvious symbolism. Like there's mother, so they're kind of children.
Yes.
Um, you've got Dallas's kind of eldest son, and
Hmm.
Ripley is this very capable but very often overlooked and undermined daughter figure.
Yeah.
Lambert is the baby. I love how Parker and Brett are sort of a married couple who are sort of attached to them. Kane is the golden boy, and Ash is the nanny. And then we get the alien. But
Yeah.
the
I mean,
alien force impregnates Kane.
mm,
Um,
mm,
this is our pivotal thing, isn't it? This is our pivotal thing. It's the man that gets force impregnated.
Yeah.
And we've already seen this fossilized alien of a different species with the sort of massive phallus or whatever it is it's attached to. And the thing I kept thinking of, quite because it's a film from the same period, I just, we were watching and I went, oh, what's the Zardoz thing? The penis is evil. And I said, no, the penis is obsolete.
Yeah.
The cishet man here is
Yes.
obsolete.
Yeah.
The gender binary has been exploded. Men can
Completely,
be
right?
pregnant.
Well, it's
What I,
it's reproduction that's obsolete, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Because the basis of the family, the bourgeois nuclear family, is of course the need to have the reproduction of the workforce. The workforce
yeah,
reproduce.
that's it, exactly.
So you need the woman's quote unquote unpaid labor. This is a little bit knotty because actually the woman is paid. She's paid the value of her labor under capitalism, which is the price of reproducing her ability to work via the wages of her husband, but she isn't actually paid. So in one way of looking at it, she is paid. In another way of looking at it, she isn't. But she needs to be in the home to reproduce the workforce, to reproduce the husband's ability to go to work. That's the basis of the entire bourgeois nuclear family system that dominates the world. It has its origins in capitalism a couple of hundred years ago, and that's not present here. And what makes it not present is the fact that, as you say, that reproduction is just absent from this world.
Yeah, it's like
But
sexual tension. It's not entirely absent. I mean, the only characters that have sexual tension are Ash and Ripley, the asexual robot.
There's a really interesting scene that was cut. They filmed it and then they cut it, where Ripley is starting to get suspicious of Ash, and she has a word with Lambert, and she says to her, "Have you ever slept with Ash?" And the way it's written and the way it's delivered, it implies that it's just normal.
Oh, it's just
a given
on these
for all these people to just sleep with each other. Yeah. It's just that scene makes it seem like it's just expected for all or most of these people to just be sleeping with each other left, right, and center. And Ripley is starting to have her doubts about Ash's who he is or what he is or something, and the way she tries to figure it out is to because she hasn't.
Yeah.
So she's thinking, has Lambert slept with him? So it's like, has he not slept with anybody? And it's kind of,
and that makes him suspicious, it's kind of,
right? Well, of course, Ash is also gay coded.
Yeah. He is. So, I mean, Ash is really interesting. You know that sequence after the alien has been brought on board and Ripley goes to basically sort of confront him but doesn't quite confront him? The way he interacts, she backs off at
the last minute.
Honestly, the way he interacts with her is so interesting. There are some decisions that Ian Holm makes that are absolutely fascinating. He never looks her in the face. Never looks her in the face.
He fucking hates her. He hates her so much.
The way he hates her, the way he's responding to her is like a child. It's like a child that's been caught. It's a child before a female figure of authority that he resents. His face is down. He's all hunched up.
Yeah, she's clocked him.
Yeah.
She's clocked him.
But one could argue that all the characters in this are gay coded to an extent.
Yes.
And I think it makes it quite interesting about how the camera works as well, because...
So do they all just sleep with each other? Have Lambert and Ripley slept with each other?
I think the idea that the company has fomented and created the conditions whereby it how useful it is to the company not to have to be concerned by gender or sexuality, only by class. So like there's no separate facilities. Everyone is discovered all together, and even the way the camera treats these people, because I've read some complaint towards the end that at the end, Ripley, having been positioned as the particular kind of character, has to strip down to her two small panties, and the camera lingers on her. But
this is a huge issue. Yeah,
but
sorry.
I think it also needs to be remembered that at the beginning of this, the camera lingers on the oddly boyish aging twink played by John Hurt, the one who gets forced pregnant. It lingers on his body in a very similar way as it will eventually linger on her body.
Yeah, but that is interesting.
There's a very interesting dynamic between Parker and Brett. It's not just a class one. They do behave like a dom and sub gay partnership.
Doesn't someone say to them at some point, "You're like an old married couple" or something?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a line in there somewhere about that.
Yeah, and and there's a fascinating thing I discovered when I was just looking up characters, like details about characters, and in the '86 film in Aliens, it is revealed that Lambert is a trans woman. It's
Yes, I
on the
remember
screen in a
that.
dossier.
Yes, in a dossier.
Um,
Yeah.
you had the is and now we have to say at the end of the day that's Cameron's vision, not Scott's.
Mhm.
But if it had been part of Scott's continuity, that could have opened up even
Oh,
more fascinating
well,
narratives around
wow.
Lambert, who is a very interesting character anyway, the way she's positioned.
Mhm.
Because if cynically one could say, oh well, it's to throw light on the fact that Ripley is this much more capable and in control character, because Lambert is a passive baby who complains all the time. But it can be put in such a different context if Cameron's idea of who Lambert was had also been Scott's. I mean, it runs riot with possibilities.
It really does, doesn't it? I mean, the gender politics just explodes at that point. It's so
But how
fascinating.
fascinating to find that
But
in a film from 1986.
Yeah,
that's so,
right.
I'd never
That's
heard that.
mad,
But
isn't
without
it?
comment either. It's
I
Yeah, it's really
genuinely never heard
strange.
that
It
before.
is like a blink and you'll miss it moment. There is a file, like a dossier on a screen, and it's going through all of the dead crew of the
Yes, I
Nostromo.
know the scene you mean.
honest.
It's the boardroom scene, but
That's
I'd never
right.
noticed that detail.
Oh,
Yeah.
here
Oh,
it is.
yes.
I made a note of it on a document here. It says, Lambert's biography. Despite conversion at birth from male to female, thus far there are no signs of suppressed trauma from gender reassignment. What a
Right.
fascinating detail.
Good
Yeah.
Lord, what a
film from
thing to put
1986.
Wow.
in.
What a
Yeah, that's
thing, right? I
fascinating.
mean,
Yeah, and with that
yeah.
character too.
And
Yeah,
in this film, with this film's symbolism and politics, and
exactly.
wow.
And the horrible, horrible, horrible finale for that character as well, which in some ways it
Yes.
contains,
Yeah.
but by implication.
But no, I think the primary division in this world is class, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even within this group of people who all are essentially workers, it's intensely class divided. Status is imbricated in every word and every action everybody does.
Every
You see it most
discussion.
drastically, obviously, in the division between Brett and Parker and the rest of the crew, because there's definitely a them and us
There's an
thing. There's
upstairs
definitely
downstairs thing going on,
yeah.
isn't it? And Ripley
There's a
moves up and
5 and
down in
2 thing
between.
going on, and yeah, maybe it's like it's expected and normal for instance, Ripley to sleep with Dallas and Kane and Lambert, but Ripley wouldn't sleep with either Parker and Brett
Maybe that's it.
because
Maybe
they're
that's
below
it.
stairs, aren't they?
Yeah. Or, looking at it in another way, maybe that's why she has the role of being the go-between between both of them. Maybe she does. Maybe she can do
Maybe,
that.
yeah.
Their
Yeah.
power dynamic is so interesting, Brett and Parker, because it seems so rooted in affection and in care. But Parker is dominant and can be seen as it can be seen as controlling Brett through that almost soft bullying thing he does.
Well, it's
And
built in,
Yeah.
it's baked in, isn't it? You get that
Yeah,
moment when Brett, or he just keeps saying "yeah" to everything
Yeah.
that Parker says. Yeah,
And
the thing
Yeah.
about
Parker and Ripley are very definitely equivalent figures in their respective spheres. That's why they, despite the immense tension between them, they get on. And in the scenes where it's Parker, Brett, and Ripley as a trio hunting the alien, Parker's behavior is really interesting because he starts drifting into acting as if it's him and Ripley, with Brett tagging along.
yes,
yeah. But
Particularly in the scene where Brett makes the mistake with the cat, letting the cat
Yes.
go.
Because
and
then he
that's
dismisses
such
him,
a
doesn't
sad
he?
scene.
He
because
dismisses him, right?
That's when then Brett's death is because he fears he's upset Parker.
Yes.
Yeah.
He goes and does
Yes.
something on his own because he fears it. And I mean, I think that I think you've hit on something there, Jack, because I think the relationship between Parker and Ripley really boils down to they are the most obviously dominant in their way characters on board
They're
the
the
ship.
two most,
And yet,
dominant personalities on the ship. Yeah.
but
Without
the
a shadow of a
reason
doubt.
Ripley survives and Parker doesn't. Parker, it seems to me, and a lot of this comes through Yaphet Kotto's performance.
Wonderful actor.
Wonderful! And you first notice it in the scene when Kane's stomach erupts and the chest buster. He is the most shocked. He is the most distressed and upset about what happens to Kane, but of any of the actors or any of the characters there. And his end is because now what he should know. I think his ending is so fascinating. So you have this situation where Ripley very stridently and correctly within the terms of the rules do not bring Kane back aboard this ship. You will break quarantine.
Yep.
Key scene.
He is able to do that. Now, what happens with Parker? Parker, if he had the same ability as Ripley, he would have flamethrowed both the alien and Lambert. He can't do it. His compassion for Lambert is so great it gets him killed.
Yeah.
And he's saying to her, "Dude, go, move, run, get out of the way." And she's, I can't.
Yeah.
It stops him. Now, Ripley would have calculated and gone, "You're both going to have to go."
Yeah.
Ripley in that
almost
position
certainly.
would have
Almost
activated that
certainly.
flamethrower and got them both.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
This is why Ripley survives.
Ripley is a fascinatingly positioned character. She's kind of an outsider, and yet she is higher up the chain than Parker and Brett. But she stands in and she survives because she is without the overt masculine or feminine traits that the other characters occupy. Despite it ostensibly being a genderless future or a genderless situation, she survives because her gender is not nailed down by the text. How traditional genders.
Ripley was originally male in the script.
Yes.
But obviously this complicates it because, she doesn't do what Parker does. She knows when to run. She knows when to hide. She knows when to confront.
Yes.
She's
a terrible pragmatism in Ripley, to the point whereby even when she's confronted with the alien, she knows what to do. She doesn't freeze like
there
Lambert
is something.
Does.
I mean, this is the capitalist war of all against all happening on this ship. That's what it is. That is the metaphysics. That is the philosophy of life that is expressed directly by Ash when he is revealed and he's in pieces on the table as a representative of the company, and the company via Ash sort of merges thematically and ideologically even with the alien.
With the alien,
the alien and Ash and the company become manifestations or iterations of each other or of the same thing. There is this other thing to which all of them are in some way equivalent. And what they're all equivalent to is this: fundamentally, it's a philosophy of life, which is, I mean, you want to boil it down to a simple phrase, you're talking about social Darwinism. And Ripley survives because she actually has the ability to play that game in a way that Parker doesn't. Parker is too empathic. He's too compassionate. Dallas, for all his flaws, is too human. It's complicated. That it's
it
naughty.
Really is. It really is naughty. I mean, I was just about to say one of the reasons Ripley survives is because she has qualities that Ash ascribes to the alien.
Yeah, exactly that. Yes. She's not an idealized heroine. She's complicated, she's naughty, and in fact, when you first encounter her, what you think is, whoa, she is a total company woman.
She has a slight dunking her head in the Kool-Aid quality, doesn't she?
Yeah.
The fact is, if she'd had her way and stopped the away team coming back on the ship, none of the rest of it would have happened. And that's her following company rules, company procedures. At a moment where, for the company's plan to work, it's necessary for the crew to not, very specifically, not
to follow the protocol.
And
really interesting.
And how is a way of doing that? Through class. Because the standard class thing, when, unfortunately, in history, when classes, particularly a working class, is confronted by power, and it gets to the point where it unionizes, and it gets to the point where it might say go on strike, and it gets to the point, it doesn't ruthlessly follow through to the end because it knows what its class position is. It has been exploited. So time and again through history, you get the working class basically letting its ruling class off the hook. Okay, get up then, we'll dust you down, and we'll go back to the negotiating table. It's not pushed through, and the company relies on these guys being the same, because even the peak, even the pinnacle of the little class system on the Nostromo, it's only Dallas, and he's just a high blue collar.
Yeah, and he also, I mean, he's also nominal, isn't he?
He's worked his way up.
His positioning as captain is completely nominal, and we know that. We know that, and he knows that. He has that conversation with Ripley when he says, "The protocol is what the company says," and it can change from moment to moment.
Key exchange.
He's
the rules are just what the company wants. He knows
just what the company wants. Yeah, his positioning as captain is completely nominal.
He's the rules of
the down. That's why he gives up in the ducts. This man has got no fight left in him.
Yeah,
he's done in. And it's significant, I think, and brilliant in terms.
He just wants to go and listen to Mozart and be left alone.
It's almost a self-sacrifice, isn't it? He self-sacrifices to allow Ripley to take the reins because she's the stronger personality. And it's important
that they cast it the way they did, because Tom Skerritt's like touching 50 in this film, and that's right. You have to have a sense that this isn't a young man with still a bit of spark left in him, and who we can take on the company. We don't have to do what the company. No, he's too far
beaten down. Yeah, he's beaten down. Absolutely, he's kind of the anything for a quiet life guy.
Yeah,
he is absolutely. Yeah, and who can blame him?
Who can blame him?
I empathise strongly with
Dallas. Yes, given the situation.
Me because he is infuriating.
I don't really know where, the scene when he goes into the ducts and she says, "I'll go in," and he says no. Again, it's beautifully played by Skerritt as well, because he doesn't clear it up with his intonation. He actually lets it stay ambiguous. He's like, well, hang on. Are you overriding her because that's what everyone always does to Ripley? They always override her or undermine her. Or are you feeling guilty about what's played out thus far?
Yes, or about what you've kind of allowed as captain.
What you've allowed as captain, or are you still playing like mother's dutiful boy?
Because do you just want to die? Do you just have a death wish?
Right, I do
sick of it. You
read
want out.
Yeah, I do read it. There is a slight sort of thanatic element to it, like a self-sacrificing element. Whether it's within the character, whether it's like part of his psyche, or whether it's just the story acting upon him. I don't.
The captain shouldn't do that. It's one of the tough things about being a captain, that if somebody needs to go into danger, you don't go. You have to pick somebody to go instead of you. That's a captain thing. But he won't do that.
It's the way he dies as well. We don't even know if he does, but the way he disappears, the way he descends and the alien is waiting, you can see it. You can actually see the dome of its head in the shadows.
Yeah, it's just sat there.
It kind of, you never see what it does, but it opens its arms. Welcome.
Yeah.
I can embrace.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Willing sacrifice, come to me.
But the thing about the hierarchy on the ship is that hierarchy and status and position in the system is everywhere on that ship. It is, as I say, it's in every word and every motion of everybody on that ship at every stage. But at the same time, it's constantly violated.
Yes.
It is impossible to tell who is the second in command. Is it Ripley or is it Kane?
Right.
It could be either or both.
Is it Ash? Ash seems to be very much in charge.
Ash is completely outside of the power structure.
Yes.
He's the science officer, which is like being the ship's doctor. But at the same time, he seems to just have the power of veto over everything. Yes, Dallas defers to him at all. But Kane, I think, Dallas treats Kane like he's the second in command. Despite the fact that I don't think he is. I think technically Ripley is the second. I think
Ripley is the second. Yeah, Ripley's the lieutenant, isn't she? Yeah.
Yeah. But Dallas won't treat Ripley that way. He writes when she tries to talk to him. He sighs. He takes on like Ash when she tries to talk to Ash. Dallas when she tries to talk to Dallas, he takes on the aspect of a sulky child.
Yes, it's like
I do wonder if it's because Kane, and I never considered it until this viewing of the film. In a sense, Kane he's almost a symbolic creature in this film.
Kane is a dreamer.
He's an angel.
Kane is dreaming.
He's an angel, And
Yeah.
so
Kane is
therefore,
a Star Trek character that got into this somehow. He
yeah,
thinks he's exploring space.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
so idealistic, and what I love about it, about the choice of hurt as well, because I said earlier, I joked, I was a bit flippant and said, this middle-aged twink gets raped by an alien, because there's a purity about him. He's very quiet, he's very likable, he's very earnest, like you said, he's very like a Star Trek character. And Hurt did have this, when Hurt was younger, had this curiously angelic thing about him anyway.
Yeah.
He wasn't an obviously pretty guy, but he always projected boyishness.
He is
And
Compelling.
sexy.
say
Yeah.
the camera lingers on
Compelling.
this smooth, boyish body, and the vulnerability in the shots when he awakes. He's the film's choice of victim of this assault, and it's an act of survival and an act of impregnation. It turns everything on its head. But there's a wonderfully telling sequence where, when they discover the face hugger is gone and he's back, they all gather round him like
Yeah.
it's like a Renaissance painting. He's like an angel, like
Yeah.
that way. But I think the other interesting thing about it, apart from the fact that they all seem to treat him as not being quite human anyway, he's a sort of idealized character, and very enigmatic and very ambiguous. But I was really struck, and I turned to Vicky again. I said, "My God, this boy, effectively, this middle-aged boy, this middle-aged twink, has just been raped,
Yep.
and none of them are confronting it. They just decide to go and have a celebratory dinner instead." So that's
Yes.
volumes about rape culture. About
Right.
you don't, and how long it took to have the changeover from the word victim to survivor, even. But it's like, well, that didn't happen, did it? No, because we don't talk about rape. We don't confront rape with people who've been survivors of rape, and it's in the film. They
Yeah.
just go and have a party.
They just go and have breakfast, don't they?
Like,
Yeah.
you all know what happened. You all know what happened
Yeah.
to him. It's an extraordinary moment. But
Yeah.
but just to cut back to it, I think he's almost like a non-human character anyway. The way he's shot, the way he's lit, the way he's not
I mean,
quite
even the
there.
way he acts, there's a kind of
Eerie.
naivete to him, isn't there? There's an innocence to him, like when he
Well, and
descends into the
even
cavern.
down to things like the dialogue he's given is clearly written for an American actor. He's given lines like "It's like the goddamn tropics in
It's
here,"
like the goddamn tropics,
and
right?
and "quit griping." No
Yeah.
English
Yes.
person
No.
would ever say "quit griping,"
Of
but
course.
he's given those lines, and the decision is made by somebody not to change them. The decision is made just to deliver, John Hurt, just deliver those lines
Yeah.
for us, please.
Yeah.
So it creates this this is a real case of casting, creating all sorts of shades of meaning in a text, because
Absolutely.
John Hurt just is fascinating casting generally. Whenever you put him in anything, he's just one of those people that nobody else ever quite looked or sounded like that. But John Hurt kind of looks old and young, ugly and
At the same
beautiful
time,
simultaneously.
right.
Yeah, and he's also apparently British and American simultaneously, which
Well, I
highlights the
mean,
fact that this is a British American crew.
Well, I mean, maybe that's one of the elements, very like gender, that's dissolved in this corporate structure. There's no distinction between cultures or nations or languages or accents anymore, because it's not germane to what the company desires or to its interests. So it's
In
just
fact,
one of
one
those
of the
elements.
strangest things about that is there was a part of me which thought, interesting that they've cast Hurt and Home this way round. Because I
Yeah,
could
you could
easily
switch
imagine
them.
them
Yeah,
being
you
switched
could.
because of the based on previous roles they'd had, their particular, because their status somewhat swaps over after this point. Home is at this point the higher actor in terms of status, but it will become Hurt.
Yeah,
Um,
eventually, yeah.
God, if there was a drift a few years either way, these guys could have been in each other's roles.
I mean, and they are very much dark mirrors of one another. I mean,
Mm.
the naivety of Cain is, as you say, it's kind of angelic, it's innocent. But the naivety, the childish elements of Ash are pensive and resentful.
Ash is so childlike as well, isn't he? He's so
So
much the
childish.
awkward new boy at the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, resentful,
That's so
awkward.
well
Yeah.
put. It's true.
Particularly of Ripley. Particularly of Ripley. There's a whole thing Ash has about women in power,
Ash
women in
hates
authority.
women.
Oh, he
Yeah,
hates
Ash
women
hates
so
women.
much. Yeah.
I
And of
mean,
course,
Well,
I mean,
even before
it
we get to the
manifests,
scene, just the way he undermines, and I know it can be read in two ways, because it can be read for its plot, which is he has been instructed by the company to make sure that that thing gets aboard, but it's just the way Holm plays the overriding, the undermining of her instruction, just
oh,
goes up
yeah.
in the code, and it just reeks of that kind of resentful, bubbling misogyny.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing men have been doing to women throughout history, isn't it? Just completely
Your order
undermining
does not
them.
mean anything to me.
Yeah, because you're a woman.
yes.
In
The
fact,
the line with which he
I'm
dismisses,
going to do the opposite because you're a woman, as
yes,
spite. You know?
the line that he uses to sort of shut down the conversation when she goes to confront him is, "You do your job and let me do mine."
You
It's
didn't let me
precisely
do mine.
That's what she was
exactly
doing. She was doing her
that's the whole
job.
point.
She was
Yeah.
doing her job, and
I only said
you
that then
stopped her
because that
doing
is
it.
exactly what I said as the scene was going. Because Vicky started to giggle because
Mm,
she said, "Oh my god, you can tell you're into it," because he said the
mm.
line, and I sort of filled in her line for
And
her,
she is.
and
I mean,
that's what
it's
I
the
said.
whole
I went,
thing is
"You didn't let
fascinating.
me
I
do
mean,
my job."
she is in that scene so much more mature than he is. She is trying to have the conversation with him in a way that will not arouse his ire, in a way that will not demean him. She
she
wants to
even
know
goes in
why.
trying to be amiable and trying to
Yeah,
engage with his scientific studies, and he just doesn't. He just sort of reacts like,
yeah.
get away
He
from me,
turns the
and
monitors off. Have you noticed when
yeah,
he's looking, he turns the
yes,
monitors off and he
yes,
turns away from her, folds his arms and puts his head down like a
yeah,
child that's been caught.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, you can read, given the Freudian imagery, it's like a child that's been caught masturbating. It's really, there's so much going on there.
Yeah, yeah, it's like she's his mum and she walked
Yeah,
in on him and he's got porn on the computer.
that's
That's what
exactly,
it's
that's
like.
that's the subtext. Yeah, that is so the subtext.
And of course, later on the misogyny of the character, the misogyny that's inherent in the character becomes start. I mean, this is one of the moments upon my first watch where I was just astonished by what I was seeing because
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting anything like this. But the scene where he tries to kill her by rolling up a pornographic magazine
Yeah,
and shoving it down her throat. Literally,
right.
he's trying to silence her. He's trying to destroy her ability to speak by
Yes.
shoving pornography
Yeah. In
literally
a
down her throat.
It's
in a
another attempt to put her back in
tubular.
her place. This
In
is
a
Yeah.
another.
in what is obviously, by the way, a mirror of the face hugger sticking its
Yes.
probe or
Yeah.
whatever into Kane's
Exactly.
mouth.
It's a
Yeah.
Yeah,
prosthetic, isn't it? It's essentially a
yeah.
prosthetic penis that he's
It's
trying to
it's a
smother her
pros
with.
it's a subtextual rape. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah,
he's literally trying to use rape as a weapon of misogynistic silencing.
And
Yes,
it's also
absolutely.
Ash putting her back in her place, just as he
Yeah.
did in that sort of low-level way in the first place. Of like, you don't give me the orders. I will open the captain wants the door open, etc. It's that the company
Mm,
wants the door open, but also this. Look, you don't. You shouldn't even be in this position. You shouldn't be here. This is what you are. You're flesh and a porn mag, which I can kill you
yes.
with,
mm.
but you're not this. And that, it's the wow.
It's such a
But that absolutely works with him being an instrument of something like a corporation.
like a corporation,
Uh,
absolutely, yeah, because it's a
totally.
And it
microcosm of what corporate culture does to every human being,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
but it happens at an extraordinary moment in the film. And again, watching this for the first time, I was just agog. I was just this that didn't happen. I didn't see
Yeah.
that. Which is that the camera or the cameraman bumps into one of the little knickknacks or whatever it is that's hanging from the ceiling and
Uh,
sets it tinkling, the wind chimes or whatever, and sets it tinkling. And Ash sees it and looks over.
yeah.
Mm.
We have a breaking of the fourth wall. We have an
Uh,
in-universe acknowledgement of the fact that there is a fly-on-the-wall documentary film crew on this
yeah.
ship filming
Right.
everything.
And let's face it, there are moments in this film which look like found footage.
Yes. It
Yes,
very much
Moments that you think
presages
this
found
could so
footage.
easily have been, a proto found footage movie. This could have
Mm.
all been the surveillance cameras on the Nostromo, the in helmet cameras.
Yeah.
you name it.
You could remake this film as a found footage or documentary film, and it could be done well. It could really work.
But you would only be literalizing something which is, for the
Symbolic
most part,
anyway.
implicit in the film. Apart from that one moment of startling narrative rupture, it's implicit.
Yeah, it really is. It's that voyeuristic element that it places the viewer in as well. That notion that you are spying on this world and on these people, and you shouldn't be.
And I
It's
don't know
forbidden.
how much the misogyny of Ash, although that it is criticized, because I mean that's the character he because we learn who he is and the ruthlessness of his character. It is fascinating coming because I thought, well, this is fascinatingly ambivalent, because so much of the film, yes, as we've been saying, returns to gender, returns to rape culture. Now, part of me watching the film thought, is it implying in its ways that patriarchy means nothing out there? I've already said about how the company has no interest in gender. It's interested in class, but it's cheaper for it not to be interested in gender. So that, if you like, our petty insistence on gender binary is just obliterated, because the alien can make, as we've said, men its surrogate mothers by force just as easily as it could have a woman. It's just Kane gets there first. And then it ends with this woman. It ends with Ripley, this survivor who has agency, who is able to cope in the situation better than, say, Parker or better than Dallas. So far, so progressive, I'm thinking. But then you sort of get this other notion that came to me, which is, well, or is this movie saying, well, look how confused things get, how messy if we don't maintain our gender distinctions, look how vulnerable we become. And then I started to think, is this film being positive about gender representation, or is it a kind of proto-turf
almost like refutation
wrapped up in a horror movie?
Yeah,
because at the end everyone's dead apart from the childless cat lady who is alone. They've got past men. All the men have been killed off. The baby, which is Lambert, is dead. And there's this independent woman who's found her new place. None of this is de facto bad, except the film depicts her as utterly alone, lost everything, almost as if it's saying, "So, militant woman, was this worth the conquest?" And I'm not saying that's the definitive reading I can agree with. I'm just saying there's a very
I know what you mean.
ambivalences.
It's
film.
there.
It can be looked at in so many different ways simultaneously, in terms of its gender representations, in terms of its critique of misogyny, in terms of its critique of rape culture. This is not a straightforward text. It is knotty as hell.
It really is.
It's very knotty. The thing is, you have to remember that last shot of Ripley. She's the Madonna. She's shot as the Madonna, and the cat is the infant
she's
Christ.
totemic,
Believe it or not,
she's become totemic by the end.
Yeah,
and actually,
but of course, the Madonna is sacred because she's a virgin, and what Ripley has achieved is she has escaped violation. She has escaped violation by the great sort of monstrous phallus of combined capital accumulation and reproduction,
patriarchy and everything. But I think it's interesting that actually perhaps the character we have forgotten in all this is Jones, because Jones is the cat of Ripley. Jones is like Ripley. Jones is an outsider. Jones is viewed as being, maybe you shouldn't be here. And yet Jones and Ripley are the survivors. Jones survives twice, survives and Brett dies, and then survives by the fact that the alien leers down at it, but it's in its cage, it's in its food. Not that would have stopped the alien if it had a mind.
If it was interested, no.
It's not interested in the cat, is it? It looks at it and it's like, yeah, don't care about you.
But it's like the fault. And the reason that Ripley and Jones are the survivors is that everyone's kind of, the human characters have undermined and also underestimated Ripley. And in a sense, the alien underestimates Jones because Jones will survive. But Jones and Ripley are kind of mirrored. They're double. So my joke about the childless cat lady, because you're quite right in terms of allegory. it is the infant Christ and the Madonna,
And the
but
Madonna,
also
yeah.
there's a real doubling of their characters. Ripley's only obvious double in the cast of characters is Jones.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. She
There's
has
no one else.
failed doubles. She has
Yeah.
failed doubles. That emphasizes
Yes,
it
there are
because she,
failed doubles. That's the only
yeah,
successful double. Yeah,
yeah.
that's who she really is.
There are several scenes where she sort of, so to speak, tries and fails to link with other characters, and it never happens.
Yeah.
There's a scene with Parker. There's a scene with Mother. There's a scene with Lambert. There's a scene with Dallas. She never quite links up with anybody.
There's a scene with Ash,
Ash, indeed, yeah,
and
yeah.
it just,
Although there's a perverse way in which those two are the closest.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, because in their antagonism, they are actually more intimate than she can manage to be
and
with
also in their
anybody else.
certainty, right? In their ideological certainty, Ripley has this this very stalwart pragmatism where she knows what's correct and she knows what isn't correct, and so does Ash. So does Ash, because of course he's programmed to think in a particular way.
They're both the closest to being company people.
Yes.
Of everyone in
much.
that, as you say, Kane he's come from Star Trek universe. He's just this idealized dreamer. Dallas is done in. Parker and Brett, they know where their class position is, so that
they don't have any particular loyalty to the company as such.
I love their relationship. I mean, they just have each other. And their relationship, of course, is tragic, like I said, because Brett dies because he feels he's upset at Parker.
He's dismissed. Parker does dismiss him.
Yeah, but Parker is also he's so fascinating with him because he ribs him but my God, Yaphet Kotto plays real care around
affection.
And it is that slightly. That can happen with couples where they sort of one denigrates the other and it's all played as a kind of joke, but maybe it's not. But at the same time, there's something still really lovable about the pair of them.
There's a sense between the two of them that they are so close that they have their own language, they have their own means of communicating.
And I love the little details, like when they're getting at Ripley and they're deliberately turning on the hydraulics so she can't be heard. They're shitting with her basically. It's great. It's lovely little details like that. Little class antagonism spilling over, but and they're dealing with them the only way they can. And they're like, hey, "Can you speak?" Because this machine's running. And
notice again though, it's an attempt to deny Ripley her voice. It's an attempt to silence her.
There's still misogyny there. Yeah, there's still it's that interesting area where the class and the gender start to tessellate and rub up against one another, so to speak.
Yes.
No, I think the problem with Ripley is that she is actually she is the barrier to the merging that is attempting to take place. That's the problem. She repeatedly acts in such a way as to try to interrupt the process of merging and reproduction, because we are watching a process of merging here. If you want to view it as kind of a metaphor about a slave ship, and it does very definitely reference, for instance, the East India Company. They call that the company. They call the company in this the company, and you have
the Joseph Conrad reference.
The Joseph Conrad reference, exactly. These are direct references to the era of primitive accumulation and the slave trade and all this stuff. So you can look. I mean, if you look upon the alien as the product of a reproductive cycle, you're essentially looking at a hybrid creature, a creature that is the product of a sexual union, regardless of the circumstances of how it comes about, through two different races. Ash even says at one point, in another startling moment that took me aback when I first saw this, they're talking about this creature that's on the ship, and Ash suddenly says, Kane's son. And it takes everybody aback for a moment. Ripley has this look on her face like, what the fuck did he say? But it is Kane's son, isn't it? It's the product of a sexual merging between this creature, whatever the hell it is. And I very definitely, firstly, I will not fucking call it a xenomorph. And secondly, I very definitely think of this not really as an alien species, but as a pattern. Because I think what you see, and Alien 3 gets this in a way that the second one just doesn't.
Yeah.
The second one reduces these things down to insect analogs. And it also makes the cardinal mistake in the special edition of giving Ripley a child and then making Newt the substitute child, which you shouldn't do, because part of the problem with Ripley is that she is a barrier to reproduction. That's the entire problem of Mother and Ash. They hate her because she is a barrier to reproduction. She's a barrier to the process of this production of a new kind of family. And what she's a barrier to is the replication of this alien pattern. And what I think what you see when you look at, and this is the key sequence for of the entire film for me, is the sequence on the alien quote unquote spaceship whatever it is. For me, it's almost, I mean, I hate to say this because this is absolutely one of my favorite films, but as soon as we get past that sequence, the film becomes significantly less interesting for me. And then once you get past the birth sequence, again, it takes a nosedive. But what you see on the ship is the product of something merging with the life form represented by the creature. Again, I won't call it the space jockey, and the ship, the alien ship, the Lovecraftian thing, whatever it is on the planet. It's a merging of something with that pattern, and then when it gets into Kane, what we see on the Nostromo, the humanoid creature,
the humanoid alien,
the thing that we think of as the alien, that is the merging of that pattern, or the adaptation by that pattern of a human shape. And the third film gets this because it then mutates or alters the pattern again, because it's, depending on which version you're watching, it reproduces through an ox or a dog. So it becomes a quadruped essentially. And I think that's the way you have to look at this. It's not an alien species. It's not like like the Romulans or something like that. It's some kind of pattern. It's some kind of predatory reproducing pattern that every time it reproduces through a predatory merging, that alters it. It changes its shape somehow. It's almost a personification of evolution itself by natural selection, you know? And what's happening on the ship is through essentially a kind of family reproduction or family merging, the pattern is being carried back to the company. And the company, as becomes very clear, particularly in the scene with Ash's smashed up body delivering its soliloquy. That's the wrong word, but you know what I mean. The company feels or senses or yearns for some kind of kinship with this thing. It yearns to merge with it, because if you think about it, that would be fantastic for capitalism, wouldn't it? It's already kind of just inherently a corporate pattern or a capitalist pattern. This predatory, reproducing, accumulating, monstrous,
whatever it comes into contact with, it absorbs and
exactly. But so we have essentially a parable about social Darwinism, sort of the inherent social Darwinism of capitalism. And Ripley, the problem that Ash has with it, has with Ripley, is that she is trying to position herself as a barrier to the reproduction of this pattern, and it's merging with the pattern represented by the company. And it is particularly outraged by the fact that she's doing that, because as a woman, she shouldn't be. She should be slotting into it,
facilitating this.
Yes, exactly.
As a woman, that's her role.
Exactly. So there's deep patriarchy buried in this as well.
Just as an aside, it is quite amusing that you pulled out that line, Jack, about Ash's. You mean Cain's son, because of course Cain being the firstborn son of Adam and Eve,
Yes,
working back into it. But that's and there's I believe there is a missing a cut scene, and I'm glad it's cut, because it tidies things up too much. But Lambert apparently does say to Ash, "You keep referring to it as he." And Ash is meant to say something along the lines of, "Oh, it's just a figure of speech, actually." And then he goes into its biology and says it is, it is actually, from what I can gather, some kind of hermaphrodite. And it's too tidy. It's too tidy. It's it's much more interesting that we just get it gets left. The son.
Absolutely.
He's so, because then that absolutely maintains the consistency of the patriarchal system. It's the son. It's he.
Because Ash just assumes its maleness.
Yes, of course.
It's an assumption of maleness. And I think that makes it more powerful than it was a good decision to cut it.
Yeah, it's like so much in this film. Its power comes from its absences. It's in the gaps. It's in the dark.
It's a good decision to cut the cocoon scene. However,
isn't it? The
only reason that I sometimes I will give the cocoon scene a break is because if they had the cocoon scene, we wouldn't have had the explanation for the reproduction in Aliens, which is far less interesting.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have the whole queen wasp thing.
It's too obviously analogous to something we know, and the film is called Aliens.
It's Starship Troopers, isn't it? It's just Starship Troopers.
And the idea that the cycle is completed by the human matter becoming the very eggs from that's fantastic. But I think it's also it was a good decision to cut that as well.
Yes, it was, because
dramatically,
capping the cycle in the way that Aliens does, where it gives you a very detailed explanation of where the cycle ends, is a mistake. Like this alien, this perfect organism that we see in Alien, we don't know where it ends, or even if it does, if it has any upper limit. It keeps constantly shedding its skin and growing into another organism, becoming different.
Where exactly.
Does it stop?
The sequels have taken the quote-unquote adult alien form that we see up to the end of the film as if that's the final form. There's no reason to suppose that at all.
It's a huge error.
In the second film, they kind of just become like NPCs. They start calling them warriors, don't they? Like the regular ones just become warriors, and it's like no. One of these things, it could. We don't know what the fuck this thing could do. We don't know how much more it could grow and change and absorb. We just don't know, because it is just a pattern. It's a predatory pattern that consumes and absorbs and accumulates and uses and assimilates and all. Science fiction and horror keep telling this story, and I think it's fundamentally about the fact that we live in a capitalist civilization, because I think these are all metaphors for capital. But this is the most powerful iteration of the same thing that we keep doing with stuff like the Cybermen and the Borg, precisely because it is so fundamentally uncanny. It is so fundamentally impossible to get a final grasp upon.
I mean, the alien in this movie, as opposed to the aliens that come, where, as you say, it's all tidied up and then it's made sort of definitive. This is what they look like. This is what they are. We were saying about aliens' impact on other science fiction and other forms of culture, and we said about how that episodes of classic Doctor Who tried to, with varying degrees of failure,
bless.
Perhaps the pre-alien text, which captures something of this, is I'm sorry, not going to mean anything to you, George, and probably to most of the people listening, but it's probably Axos.
Yes,
Axos closest to this amorphous. Well, what is it? I mean, what form is the correct form? Oh no, it's several forms. Oh no, now it's this over here. Now it's that over there, and that has that meshes well with the our understanding of the alien from this film alone.
Absolutely, right. Yeah. I mean, the Axos quote unquote ship looks like a giant tapeworm.
Yeah.
And I think I think you much better interpreting the, as I say again, ship on the derelict on the planet as some sort of body. I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like a body. We're complete with a gigantic broken womb, belly, uterus, whatever, that's full of eggs, like a parasite has laid eggs inside it. Like, it's a body.
It's one of the great sins of Prometheus, and in fact, not just Prometheus, but a lot of the films that come after in this franchise, that it attempts to explain why it is like that.
But not only does it explain, George, it closes down possibility.
It closes it down. That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
the guy who was the director, the filmmaker, seems to have in later installments either forgotten the possibilities that this text tells us via the alien, or it just becomes victim of oh well, we need a trademark, and the trademark
Yes.
is
Yeah.
that's the way the alien looks.
Or he never understood it, or he never
Never
got his
Quite
own text
possible.
in the
Yeah.
first place. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like, it's a powerful argument for what is colloquially called death of the author, isn't it?
Think about the auteur. I mean, we were saying earlier about how things morph from genius to genius, and when you, for example, were describing about how pivotal those three women in The Shining are, even though it's ostensibly how large Kubrick, but because we're still, after all these decades, no matter how many times the theory has been unpacked, how many times it's been exploded, how many times it's been, oh no, it doesn't quite work like that way, we still default to the idea of the auteur. We still
Mm.
talk about Kubrick,
Yes.
Ridley
Yeah.
Scott,
Yes.
Tarkovsky, Murnau. That's what we do. It's very hard to break.
It really is. And it creates that sense of almost hostility when they start producing bad work, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost like cognitive dissonance, isn't
It
it? When
really is.
people who, it's like, I mean, I've experienced, again, we talked about this a little bit, previous installments, we talked about The Wicker Man, and I talked about how bafflingly, bizarrely awful Robin Hardy's movie The Wicker Tree is.
Oh
It does
yes.
create this weird sense of how could the same person have made
Yeah.
both these films?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
it's funny because
Dying to see
something
that,
that
by
we
the way. Still haven't seen it, but dying to.
it's something that Vicky and I discussed in this thing we've been doing about David Bowie, because I was saying all the way through this, I said there's something that's crept into our culture ever since David Bowie died, is this kind of Bowie-idolatry. I said this
Yes. Yeah.
Dianification of Bowie. I said I really want to guard against this in the podcast that we're doing, because it's very much we were talking about so much of it comes out of collaboration. Yes, he was very, very good at certain things, but he was also very good at casting Brian Eno and Robert Fripp, or this person and that person or the other, or having these people around him. And when some of those people aren't around him, the times is different. It's shockingly bad, But he's still the element that we recognize. But it's a brand name. It's and David Bowie does not mean solo artist David Bowie responsible for every part of
No.
the art. It's just the identifying logo. It's the
Yes,
identifying
it's
brand.
the identifying factor, isn't it, of
Yeah,
the phenomena.
yeah, exactly. And it's a similar thing with here with Ridley Scott. What
Hmm.
what Ridley Scott achieves on Alien, what he achieves on Blade Runner, and yet you can see other things by him and go, well, hang on, what happened here? You're the
Absolutely.
prominent all these. Yeah, but you're not surrounded necessarily by the same people, and you're not necessarily coming at this with the full understanding that you might have grasped at
Hmm.
that particular point or whatever. On
Yeah,
it goes.
it's kind of evident when you watch the latter day Alien films, the Prometheus and Covenant, that he probably either doesn't understand why this film was so resonant or doesn't care anymore.
It's so unfortunate they emerge in a time where just the very look of film, because the thing about when I went back to Alien, just purely on the aesthetic level, is just how much wonderful grit there is in it. In
Yeah.
in the it feels everything about it is material.
Weighty and material and functional, right?
And
Everything
everything
feels
about a later
legitimate.
Alien film is synthetic, and
Yeah.
has to rely on CG,
Hmm.
and so on. So it always feels like once you have CGI, once you violate
Hmm.
the material parts of a film, it is like watching two different formats trying to intermingle, and
Ah,
you just get your brain gets scrambled by it.
yeah.
Whereas with the 79 pick, it's like all those shots of models, they're models.
Hmm.
It's obvious they're models, they're scale models, but because the materiality of everything is there,
Hmm.
you,
Hmm.
you, you have a real sense of verisimilitude.
And it's
It's,
beautiful as well, isn't it? I mean, like
it's
because of the way it's filmed and the way it's framed and
I
shot, where you
love,
see the Nostromo, which looks
yeah,
like a cathedral.
It's such an odd design for
Oh, it's very. I think it's very
Yes.
deliberate. I mean, it's the Gothic sensibility for
breaks
one thing,
everything.
isn't it? And this film is heavily Gothic.
Well, it looks
Well,
like
it looks
a castle, but it also looks like an oil rig.
yes, it looks like
yeah.
it looks like a factory. It looks
The place
like
of work, you know.
Well, yes. I
yeah,
mean,
it
one of
looks
the
like an
things.
oil refinery or something with massive chimneys
Yes,
and yeah.
one of the elements I love about the film is this sort of in media res element of it. Like when the film opens, the mining expedition is over. They're on their way home. So we
Yeah.
Yeah,
haven't
it's all
really,
over, yeah.
we haven't seen what the Nostromo is capable of or what it does. You just know that it's this gigantic mining facility that can also refine the ore that it mines from planets. I mean, the thing looks like it could crack planets in half from orbit, doesn't it?
Which implies that the whole the process is almost entirely automated, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because you've got a crew of 7 people.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So if this gigantic, essentially this gigantic planet-sized factory has been somewhere and it has cannibalized moons and asteroids and it's emptied them of all the minerals that are now valuable to the company, and it's filled its silos with these minerals, and it's in the process of churning through them and refining them. So this is a process that is 99% just completely automated.
Completely
the people are
automated, yeah.
literally there just to press buttons.
Yep.
So that again implies that the process that the company is reaching for, this process of total merging with either the machine or something machine-like that is so able to do labor that it essentially becomes like a human being, like Ash, for instance, who is a mechanism, but is a mechanism who is almost organic. He's made of tubes and bubbles and fluids and stuff like this. Or it's a machine that is so, it's taken on the contours of life. It's life that has become so mechanical that it's taken on the contours of machinery, or it's machinery that has taken on the contours of life. And that's what's actually happening in this. We have apparently human civilization tending towards this, what some people, wrongly, I'd say, call the singularity.
Yes, that's
this
sort of mechanization.
Yeah, total mechanization, where just the distinction, it's Baudrillard again, the distinction between the fake and the real just loses, it just breaks down.
Well, that's manifested in the alien, isn't it? It's a biomechanoid. I mean, if you look at it closely, it's biomechanical. And by the way, those are elements that the alien will lose in later iterations.
Yeah, they get more and more organic as they go on, don't they? They get more and more sort of visibly
defined.
In this film, it is very visibly sort of made of pistons and pumps and
pipes and tubes.
That actually looks better because that gets at the theme, which is, as I say, I'm talking about this merging. It's the merging through reproduction of these two processes that are tending towards the same thing. The alien pattern represents life taking on the contours of machinery, and human civilization is machinery taking on the contours of life, and they're trying to meet at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
But we also don't know how much intelligence the company have on this thing, because one of the things I find really fascinating about this film is we're not privy to how much the company knows what's going on this planet and with these creatures, or maybe they've discovered them somewhere else, who knows. So we have no idea what they have in mind in terms of how do you make a merging of the human pattern with this pattern? How are we going to exploit them, say, for example, for their labor power? Therefore, we can do without salaried workers, wage workers. We don't know. It's all, in fact, it feels very pure in its
well, that's not, I mean,
just like, here's a new thing, we therefore must absorb it, and we'll work out the details later.
It's an instinct. It's happening on an instinctual level on both sides of the process.
The engine of history.
Ripley
going this way, and Ripley is the one who can pull the cord. Possibly.
Ripley speculates that they want the alien for the bioweapons division, and that becomes, again, the later texts take that as canon. They take
that completely literally. They just run with that.
That's just her speculation. I think it's just an instinctual process. It's just two processes that are tending towards the same point of contact, just sort of inherently yearning to meet and join up.
It is
and to both are hoping to predate upon the other, if you know what I mean.
That's it.
But the closest thing we get to a statement by the company of what they think and how they see the alien and what they want is from Ash. And Ash's point of view is pure, utter, total nihilism. It's just, this thing is the best at surviving, and that's it.
That's it.
That's what it is.
That's
it is just survival.
And implicit in that is that it deserves to survive.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
above and beyond anyone else.
It's worse than that. It's worse than, it's the best at surviving, so it deserves to. It's just, it's the best at surviving, so that's it. It doesn't matter what anybody
Nothing else
deserves.
Matters, right? Yeah. Nothing else matters.
What anybody or anything deserves or wants or thinks about this is irrelevant.
He talks about its purity. He talks about its purity. He says that he admires its purity, but its purity is thanatic.
Well, he
just
becomes
by its very nature,
doesn't he? In his vocabulary, when he starts saying, how beautiful it is.
Oh, he adores it in the same way and to the same degree he resents and loathes Ripley.
Yeah,
he hates human beings.
Yeah,
it's very clear that Ash hates humanity because he's been made in its image. And it's, on some level, that suggests that he hates what he is.
Yes, and very much so. Yes, there is. I mean, he's made in the image of humanity, but cannot relate to humanity, cannot engage with humanity on an intimate level. And of course, that comes through in his misogyny and his sort of pseudo rape of Ripley.
But
yes, absolutely.
Strange things about Ash. There's little tiny strange things because this is a synthetic being. This is a robot, and yet there's a scene quite near the beginning where they concentrate on Ash, I think sneezing or something. He has like a bodily, which, and then of course the breakdown which comes out of nowhere and is again not over explained. What's the breakdown? Is the breakdown? I've got two contradictory pieces of information and therefore I can't get them through the logic gates. I'm here to do one thing. I'm being told to do another thing. I don't know. It just comes out of nowhere.
And
he just goes.
It does come out of nowhere.
He flips.
You don't know why he's going berserk. The obvious thing to do is to almost overread the Hal thing from 2001 over it, but that's sort of post prior. It's
absolutely.
You don't actually know what's going on, and it feeds into the ambiguities that run throughout the film. But it's a very scary moment. So what's going on?
I mean, the film kind of half implies that he's damaged when Ripley pushes him out of the way. But I mean, if the mechanism is that fragile, but that's, in a way, that's the point, isn't it? Because it's the fact that Ripley pushes him out of the way that causes the malfunction. Not in the sense that it damages the mechanism and the mechanism starts malfunctioning, just in the sense that a woman
pushed me.
Yeah, and it's just too much. It's just his hatred and resentment is just too much at that point. So he erupts in this gigantic sort of semen splattered rage, homicidal rape fury.
And also, he's kind of
not in control of their emotions.
He's aroused and priapic as a result of the alien, and resentful and angry because of Ripley's interference, and it's all in a very adolescent teenage way erupting.
Yeah, it's really because she's spoken to Mother, hasn't she? In an unfiltered way. She and Mother have had a conversation behind his back.
Right. Yeah.
And he erupts in a torrent of semen, which of course is perfect. All that pent up semen.
But that's what, if we do end up making humanoid androids or humanoid robots or whatever, if capitalist civilization, if corporate culture does, and there's actually a very good Angela Collier YouTube video explaining why actually humanoid robots are fucking stupid and won't work, and we won't have them. But in short, they're too expensive, they're too heavy, they're too dangerous, they'd be a waste of money. It's not going to happen. But if we did end up making them with our society the way it is, that's what they'll be like. They'll be hostile, resentful, fragile, misogynistic, homicidal maniacs.
Well,
because
they'll be byproducts. They'll be not only be byproducts of corporate culture, but they'll be the products of tech bro weirdos.
Exactly.
Billionaires.
They'll be the products of companies like Palantir. So
Yeah,
of course they'll be like Ash.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, it's bizarrely accurate in that regard,
It
isn't it?
is. Yeah.
Bizarrely accurate. And again, I mean, like, not to harp on it too much, but Prometheus does attempt to sort of explain this by giving you the character David, of course, who is, yeah, he resents human beings on a more sort of Frankensteinian existential level. And
Yeah.
that's where it derives from. I mean, don't get me wrong, I actually quite like David as a character. I think he's the best thing in Prometheus. That might be because it's Michael Fassbender. But at least he does have that Frankensteinian element, right? He has those questions, which is kind of interesting. But again, it is an attempt to explain this away.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah. I think Prometheus is interesting in some respects in the way that it's very interested in the way in which human civilizations through history have sort of been composed, or at least seen themselves as composed of information,
Yes.
and try to transmit information down generations. I think it's getting at something quite interesting there, but it over literalizes almost everything, like the
Everything.
the the,
Yeah.
the corporate critique, the capitalist critique that is imminent in Alien. It it takes the sort of more crass approach of, oh,
Yes.
let's have an evil businessman and
Yes,
let's have
let's
an evil
talk about it.
corporate.
Yeah, let's just
Yeah,
have it in your face. Let's take the subtext and wrench it up and make it
yeah,
text.
Well, the
That's what it
effective thing
does.
here is that the company is, it's systemic. It's part of a
Mm,
system. You don't get just the evil capitalist. We get Ash, but then it
yeah,
needs a representative. It needs an
yeah.
avatar.
Well, the company
But
is
Ash is
God,
not the,
isn't it? It's unseen. It's a
yeah, it's
force.
much more
Well, one of
effective.
the one of the side effects of having this entire story set in a bottle, a ship in a bottle, so to speak, is that the company, which is the owner, the producer, the employer of everybody and everything in this story, it just basically becomes human civilization. In this, as we see it in Alien, human civilization just is the company,
Yeah,
and
there's a
vice
very
versa.
heavy implication in Alien that at this, it's never stated, it's never made a muchness of, because again, it's one of the strengths of the text. But it seems to suggest that at this point in human history, there is nothing else, right? There's
Exactly.
no
Yeah.
governments, there's nothing else on Earth like organizing or cohering humanity other than corporations, or
Yeah.
maybe just one,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
company.
monopolistic.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the ultra monopoly.
Yeah.
It's the one state capital
Hmm. Hmm.
that Marx and Engels actually predicted as a possibility.
Because they're
Assuming it even,
already talking as if because there's no, either they're operating outside of the government and they're doing this covertly, or they've merged with the government, another merger, and
yes,
they are
yeah,
the government, and
Yes.
this is government policy because it is company policy
yeah.
that we will
I
we
mean,
Yeah.
will find this thing.
assuming, of course, that the company even still exists at this point. I mean, you have to bear in mind that we're talking about cosmic time here. They've been, I mean, by their own reckoning,
Lord.
they've been out doing this mission for God knows how long. So there's no saying that when they get back to Earth that they'll get anything out of this.
I mean,
The
they have been
company
in
may have
cryo sleep
collapsed,
for,
or there
yeah,
may
sort
be
of
nothing
cryo
left.
sleep, and how long communications take to travel,
Right.
and so on. It's a good point. Yeah,
It's
never
fascinating.
considered that. Sorry.
It is
Yeah.
fascinating.
It's just an aside, but I do find it quite funny is that Tom Skerritt and Harry Dean Stanton are reunited in Harry Dean Stanton's last film, Lucky, and they have a very, very funny conversation together in a diner as these two much older guys, which I can't help but read as being a kind of reference to Alien, because they talk about their wartime experiences. And Lucky, played by Harry Dean Stanton, sort of admits, well, you see, I was only the cook on the ship, and on a naval ship,
Yeah, yeah.
And Tom Skerritt is like suggesting he was a captain of his. So there's this little class thing happened. So they're talking about being on the
Yeah,
Nostromo.
about being on the
Yeah.
Nostromo. Yeah, yeah.
It's almost impossible not to watch that film, being, an appreciator of Alien and not seeing that connection, however fanciful it might be.
Brilliant.
I do want to touch on something that you raised earlier, Rob, which is the scene at the end with Ripley in the state of undress,
Oh
because
yes,
I think
yeah.
that is again, it really comes out of
It
nowhere
really
when you
does,
watch this the
doesn't it?
first time.
It can be
It's
quite
yeah,
shocking.
it is a bit shocking watching that scene for the first time. There's nothing like that in the whole rest of the
Nope.
film, and suddenly you get to this. I mean, part of it is just lulling you into a false sense of security before the inevitable reveal of, the alien is on
Of
the
the
escape
alien,
pod.
yes.
But then it goes to such an extreme, doesn't it? With the
Yeah.
scene where she's in the cupboard and she's climbing into the spacesuit. It's such an extreme example of the male gaze, as they
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
camera
Yeah.
is
the leering
right down.
camera.
Yeah, it really is. It's right down below, and it's trained right the way up her entire body. It's almost aiming right at her underpants,
Yeah.
and it's so
It feels
and
so
it's
deliberate, doesn't it? It feels
yeah, and
so deliberate.
in a film like this that hasn't done anything, that hasn't objectified any of the characters sexually up to this point,
Yeah.
not least including the female characters, and in fact has actually contained metaphorical critiques
Yes,
of
has
such
made a
things.
point of not doing
Yeah,
so. Made a direct point of not sexualizing Ripley in particular.
exactly. And has even critiqued it, as I say, with the whole thing with Ash trying to kill her by stuffing pornography down her throat, and the whole tenor of the film and its preoccupation with things like bodily violation and rape and forced impregnation and forced birth and stuff like that. To get to this, it must be there to do something. It must be there to
Yes.
do something other than just titillate the
Other
viewer.
than yes,
It,
absolutely. Yeah. It
I
has a
don't
different
believe.
valence, doesn't it? It
Well,
has a different valence.
Vic
It's
made a
there to
point.
implicate you, isn't it? It's there to
Yeah,
implicate the viewer. It is there to make it's there to make it explicit that the alien is a sexual threat,
Yes.
that
yeah,
the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
alien
yeah.
is what it seems to be, that it is a gigantic phallus that is
Yep.
preparing to violate.
Hmm.
And it's there at the same time and it is actually the male gaze because it's working on or not necessarily male, but you know what I mean. It's working on the presumed viewer who is going to be looking at an objectified female body with a certain kind of sexual desire. It's
Mm.
doing that deliberately, but it's doing that deliberately in order to implicate the viewer in it's there essentially to make you feel like you are the alien looking
Hmm.
at her as a predator
As a
looking at
predator,
prey.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Vic
It's
also
got to
made
be.
a little comment as well, which I thought was interesting because she said her panties are too small for her, and I went, oh, and she said, yeah, but of course they would have been issued by the company along with everything else.
mhm,
Oh my
of
god!
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, well, the company's. So Vic said, well, the company's utterly exploitative. We can see that. That's why they're doing what they're doing vis-a-vis the
Yes.
alien. She said, well, of course they've issued her with panties that don't fit her. I was like, oh god, I never.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, again, I'd never thought
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. The
So
alien
I
is
think that,
strange in that
this.
scene as well. Its
It's
behavior is
languorous
yes,
and
it's really weird. Up until this point, if it's come across someone, it has murdered them, or
yeah.
rather, it has taken them. It's done something to them very immediately. With Ripley, it doesn't. It's almost like it's in a semi state of hibernation at this point.
Or it's post-coital. It's
It's
acting
yeah,
post-coital
right, right.
because it's literally just eaten,
Gorged.
stroke,
Yes,
fucked,
Sexual
hasn't it?
gorged.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. On several.
It's in its refractory period, so to
Yes,
speak.
yes.
And purely on just a reveal. Again, back to
Oh,
Giga, back to the design. The fact that I still remember the first time I saw that, and you think that is just a part of the just interior,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a pipe or a conduit or something, and it slowly turns. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Well, it reaches for her, doesn't it? But in a very slow way. It's almost like a lover in bed, you know?
It's almost perfunctory. It's almost like I'm here. I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah. It doesn't feel threatened by her, and it doesn't feel like it particularly regards her as prey at that point either. It's just, it's too tired, it's had enough.
Well,
It's
it's
replete.
playing with its food, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's it's got her, as far as it's concerned, it's got her completely cornered.
Yes.
There's literally nowhere for her to
There
go.
is nowhere to
oh,
go.
and it's had
Yeah.
full success so far. I mean, every
Yes.
every
Mhm.
creature it's come across, it's dealt with.
Yeah, I suppose
So
it can take its
why would this
time,
one
can't
be
it?
different?
Yeah, and of course, that again, the film has gone out of its way to place Ripley in this hyper state of vulnerability.
Yes. Yeah, that's another thing about getting her down to her smalls, which
Yeah,
is that instinctively, we just feel more vulnerable when we're
yeah,
unclothed.
But
yeah,
I know what
yeah.
you
And we
mean,
are.
Jack, because it's a very difficult. Because I always find this with it, there's always that slight tension around this thing of um, I see what you're doing, and I can see the force of the implication,
Hmm.
and how that pans out. But you've still got to go there to
You've
do
still
it.
got to
You're
There's
do it.
still
Yeah,
doing it.
always
you've
that.
got
Yes.
to.
Yeah, there's
Yes, you've
always
got to
that
raise the
almost.
subject in order to critique it, right? So,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
thereby kind of reinforce it by
yeah,
accident, by proxy.
yeah. It's tricky. It's
It's thorny. It's
there's an
very,
awful lot
very
of
hard.
texts we can pull apart for that very reason. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, but you had to go there, and you had to do the almost the very thing you're critiquing in order
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
It's very tricky.
It's
You're
the
sort of damned
Lolita
either
sort of
way a bit.
Nabokov tension, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
In fact, that
But it
sequence also contains one of the only shots in the film that I don't necessarily like, and it's when you see the alien after it's been ejected from the pod, and you see the whole
Dangling.
of the
Yeah,
alien. I think
yeah.
that's a
yeah,
mistake. I think that's a
we do see
mistake.
too much there.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that's a huge error because up until that point, you've only ever seen bits and pieces of it. You've never seen the whole thing, and so you're never quite certain what its anatomy is.
I wonder if that might have been a studio decision.
I think it
You know,
probably was.
because I, I think his attempt to hide man in a rubber suit is very like Spielberg's attempt to hide rubber shark. But I imagine there was probably pressure to go. But there must
Yes,
be a
you
shot,
must see the
as he
alien.
as Spielberg had to do in Jaws.
Hmm.
Eventually, had to do the anatomy.
Yeah, it because it's such an action scene, it relies upon the audience being able to see enough in order to make visual sense of what's happening. You need
Yes.
to be able to see the bay doors of the ship. You need to be able to see the alien
Mm,
outside. You need to be
Hmm.
able to see it stuck in the doorway so that
Yes.
you understand it's pushed out finally by the
yeah,
harpoon.
Yeah.
true.
Symbolic penetration, by the way.
Again, yes.
So they kind of back themselves into a corner there, don't they? They kind of
Yeah.
write it so that you have to show the audience the whole thing in order for it to be visually comprehensible.
Yes.
And if you show them the whole thing, you kind of just you're at the mercy of the suit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if the suit
Yeah.
doesn't look all that great in long shot, you just kind of have to go with it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's one of the very, very, very few elements of this film that I always see it and I think, I wish it wasn't in it.
Yeah, I wish
I
we
do
could.
wish it wasn't in it.
Yeah.
But
I'm
hey,
afraid the alien is about, unfortunately, to come for me. But
right.
I will very much look forward to hearing what you guys have to add. But I'm on a bit of a schedule, unfortunately,
Oh, no
so
problem.
I
No
had
problem at all.
10 or thereabouts. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Please go on without me because I'd be fascinated to hear what else you talk about. But you'll have to forgive me. It's one of those very early starts tomorrow.
No
Okay.
problem.
He's
No problem
he's
at
off to
all.
be cocooned.
Yep. Yep. Good luck.
But it's been a pleasure, and can't wait to hear the rest of it.
Always.
Enjoy, my friends. All the best.
Always a pleasure.
Bye
Bye.
bye. No, this
Oh,
one, I mean, I just found, coming to this film, I found intimidating, if I'm honest, Jack. More so than anything else
oh
we've done.
yeah. Yeah. This is huge. This
It's,
is
I mean,
culturally totemic. It's, it
this is
changed pop culture forever.
it. It's not,
And
and it's also the personal factor as well. The fact that it's so significant. I find it a
mm,
bit difficult to get a bead on.
yeah. I mean, I can't hope to get everything that I want to say about this
No,
out
no
in the course
chance.
of a
No
podcast because
chance.
I've kind of sketched out a blog series stroke horror philosophy non-fiction book on this subject, because I have so much, you know, I'm actually a kind of a crank or a crackpot on the subject of this film. I think that otherwise sane people can be crackpots on one subject. I feel like that's allowed,
I think
and I
that's
feel
fair,
like
and as long
I'm
as it's a film and it's not like global politics or whatnot, I'm sure it's fine.
well, it's like, you know, even if it's something like something very stupid like flat Earth or something like that, as long as it's a not something that's actually, you know, if it's anti-vax, then we're going to have a problem
Then we're
because you're
going to
going to
have an
hurt people.
issue. Yeah,
But if
definitely.
it's if you know if it's light languages or
Oh,
flat Earth or something silly like that, I don't mind as long
I'm
as it's
kind of
your only
interested.
thing. I'll let you
Yeah,
have it.
I'm kind of
Um,
interested in that regard.
yeah,
I will
but
sit down and
yeah,
have a chat, you know.
yeah. I'll tell you you're wrong, but I don't
Yeah,
mind if you want to.
but
Yeah,
I want
but
to know,
no,
right?
I'm a bit weird about this film because I do
Mm.
think this is yeah, this has got so
It
much
contains
going on in it.
multitudes. It does
Really
contain
does.
multitudes, doesn't it? And
Yes. Yes.
it has that very strange quality, I find, that it almost feels occult. Like
Yes.
there's something unspoken, a subtext resonating underneath and in between the cracks of this
Well,
film.
I always think of it as fundamentally a dream. I think I
Yeah.
don't think it's an accident that it begins with somebody waking up and it ends with somebody going to sleep.
Going to sleep,
That
yes.
so what we have apparently is, you know, the dream ends and here's the reality and then you go back to sleep, but it doesn't take much of a feat of the imagination to just reverse that,
Right.
to take what's being said and say, yeah, you mean the opposite, don't you? You
Right. So
mean
because yeah,
that what happens here is some kind of dream, and it is dreamlike,
it
particularly in
very
that
much.
first half, where the journey into just this complete. I mean, it is a dream landscape.
Yeah.
The derelict spaceship, if we must call it that,
Hmm.
it is a landscape of dreams, and not necessarily bad dreams either. It is beautiful to look at. It is fascinating to look at.
Well, it is a kind of
It's
an almost Freudian journey, isn't it? You know,
oh
into
yeah,
images
yeah.
from the subconscious just dredged up and made manifest.
Absolutely. Freudian, not in the literal sense of actual Freudian theory, but Freudian in the colloquial sense
Yes, in the
of the
colloquial sense, yeah.
unconscious. And yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, my God, what that does to the film, what it layers in is insane. It's absolutely insane. And of course, because it's a Giga design, it does bring that Lovecraftian element to it as well, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is something, yeah, that I really wanted to talk to. This is a Lovecraftian film.
Oh, totally.
I think
Totally.
this little series that we're doing is sci-fi horror, and it's
Mhm.
amazing how much of it. I mean, Lovecraft is very much part of the conversation these days, but for a long time, Lovecraft was this huge influence that was kind of unacknowledged, I
Yes,
think,
it was
because
unspoken, wasn't it?
yes, the Thing is another movie that I think we're probably going to be talking about, and
Oh
that's a
yes.
Lovecraftian movie
Well, I
too.
mean, it's. I'm sure you mentioned in one of our Lovecraft retrospectives that's as close to At the Mountains of Madness as we've ever got in cinema.
It's kind of the best cinema version you could make of that,
Yeah,
I think, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
I think so.
they're in the ice, they dig up a shoggoth. That's kind of the core of the
That's
story
pretty
that's
much
film
it.
worthy.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much it.
But yeah, it's this is a Lovecraftian movie. The Thing is a
Mhm.
Lovecraftian movie. So that's two of the most significant science fiction horror films, very directly inspired by Lovecraft,
By
very
Lovecraft.
directly taking
Mm.
Lovecraftian ideas and Lovecraftian aesthetics.
Yes, the aesthetics and also just the sheer resonance of it, right? I mean, it's not just the horror of. I mean, when you look at it, the story literally, it's not just the horror of this alien thing that's discovered, which is unknowable, but it's humanity being out there on a frontier that is entirely unknown and hostile to them. I mean, I find the quiet moments on the Nostromo at the beginning as terrifying. The fact that you're in this big floating cathedral that you don't really know how it works or whether it's safe, and it probably isn't, and you're in the most hostile environment in existence. It's
Yes,
terrifying.
I think 2001: A Space Odyssey probably concentrates more on just the sheer horror of space,
Yeah.
of distance from Earth, I think.
Yep.
But it doesn't do, well, it does kind of, but Alien concentrates far more on just the idea of, if we're out there, we are just at the mercy of technology. And of course,
Yes.
2001 it has a lot to say about, being at the mercy of technology, obviously. But in Alien, it seems so much more direct, because it's just the fucking machine breaks.
Oh, I
They
love it.
land,
I
yeah,
honestly, everything
they
breaks.
land on an
Everything in
alien
this,
planet,
you know,
and it just it just cracks as they're landing, and they have to
yes.
spend they're stuck there, and they have to spend
This,
days and days and days literally sort of welding it back together
yep.
if they ever want to fucking leave.
This magnificent cathedral, this temple to capitalism as God, right, is just not fit for purpose, right? It's been, the
It literally
corners have
hits
been
some
cut.
rocks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
corners have been cut, costs have been taken out. It breaks all the goddamn time.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, and I love that. I love that as a commentary on that particular faith that it represents. The fact that, yeah, at this point, corporatism is probably absolute. There probably is nothing else. It's probably like the entirety of the culture on Earth is dominated by this, and yet it's so fucking self-destructive, so corrosive. You know?
And the near total absence of anything like the utopian exploring
Yeah.
spirit, that
Oh,
you get
yeah.
in Star Trek.
Oh
That's
God,
all
yeah.
about space is going to be exploration. It's going to
Hmm.
be seeing new things and learning new things and meeting new people, and it's all going to be inspiring and wonderful and about progress. And
Yeah.
and I'm not sneering. I love Star Trek, but
Yeah.
this, it's
Oh,
even 2000.
this is
Even
consumptive.
2001 has that. 2001 has an essential optimism to
Yeah.
it, despite the fact that it's talking about a transcendent experience of
Hmm.
meeting the alien that essentially sort of annihilates your humanity. It's still
Yes,
fundamentally
you're.
optimistic.
Yeah.
This version is just, I mean, apart from Kane's sort of golden boy, oh yeah, I want to get out there and explore. Apart from that, it's literally that there's two attitudes. There's, yeah, I hate this. I don't
Yeah.
care. I want to get home. I want my money.
Hmm.
And there's a thing here that we can use.
Yeah.
There's a resource here that we can take. That's it.
It's
Those are
entirely
the
cynical,
attitudes.
isn't it? It really is. From the human perspective, it's entirely cynical
Completely. Yeah.
and slightly misanthropic in a very Lovecraftian way.
Very, yes. Whatever the transcendent, mystical, inexplicable alien forces or realities there are out there that we might encounter, they're not friendly. They're
No, they're
not
not
something
friendly.
we can, they're not going to be nice to us.
No.
We're not going to understand them. We're not going to, they're just going to essentially consume us.
Yeah,
If
mindlessly
we,
hostile.
yeah, if we can merge with them at all, it is only by being consumed
Yeah.
and
And
completely,
by annihilated, right? By the loss
yes,
of personality, of self.
yes.
Um, yeah,
And at
it
least part
is.
of our civilization wants that as well. It wants
Yes,
that
right.
merging.
That's what I find really fascinating about the whole thing. I mean, like you were talking earlier about like why the company wants this thing, and on a a symbolic level, it's that instinctive desire to merge with something that is its ultimate expression or the manifestation of its ideology.
Mhm.
But on a more story level, like a literal level, why? What does it
Well, it
want?
probably, on a conscious level, it probably is just money, isn't it? It
Yeah,
probably is
but
just
what does it think
here.
it can do with this
Yeah,
creature?
here's a remarkable thing. We can use that. We can research it. We can turn it into something. Maybe
Dissect
it
it.
is a weapon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we can
It,
dissect it and like hybridize it with other things, and I don't know, make.
but on, as I say, I think on the deep level, it's just sort of one iteration of the same principle
Hmm.
of predation and usage crying out to another
Yeah,
and
yeah.
trying to join up, you know?
And it's interesting that at the point where they do meet, they don't join up, they don't merge. There's rupture. There's incredible
Yes. Yeah.
rupture.
Yeah. Because of course the one is going to try to consume the other.
Of
And they
course,
can't both
yes.
do that. So
Right. Yeah,
and there's
yeah.
all I mean, I said earlier that Ash is like the personification of the company
Mhm.
when he speaks frankly to the crew or the survivors of the crew. It's like he's speaking for the company.
Yeah.
It's only kind of that, isn't it? You get the feeling, I get the feeling anyway, that Ash just has his own agenda. I don't think
Mm.
Ash really, he's there for the company, obeying the company, doing what the company want, but I don't know that he's fooled in the same way that they are. I don't know that Ash thinks the company's plan will work.
No,
Ash probably, I feel like Ash is laughing up his sleeve at the entire human race,
yeah,
both crew
that's
and
yes.
company.
I think that's it. I think his utter contempt for humanity, and of course that would extend to the company because the company is as a product and an expression of humanity. I think maybe
Yeah.
what he sees in the alien is extinction. He sees the extinction of humanity potentially.
Yes.
The terrible joke, humanity has come out here with its greatest creations and found this thing that it thinks it can use and it can tame, but which is entirely beyond its control.
Mm. Yeah,
His
because he doesn't say anything about the weapons division or
Nope.
anything like that.
No, he just talks
That's
about the
Ripley's.
entity. He just talks about the
Yes,
alien, and he
he's just
adores
enraptured
it.
by it.
Oh,
Yeah, he
adores
loves
it.
it because
Absolutely
it's
adores
just
it.
precisely because it's inimical to humanity as well. That's why he
Mm.
likes it,
Oh
because it is
yeah.
just, or because it is total efficiency as well.
Yes.
He is a product of human culture,
Mhm.
and human culture in this world, as far as we can see, just is corporate capitalism, total
Mhm.
monopoly corporate capitalism. So it has created this thing that is kind of a personification of itself. And the irony is that that thing isn't loyal to it. But that's
Right.
perfect, isn't it? Because of course it wouldn't be, because capitalism does consume itself. Capitalism does
Yes.
constantly exist in this sort of self-cannibalizing, constant competition, war of all against all
Yes.
state. That's essential to its structure.
Yeah.
So if it creates a being like Ash that is a personification of it, then of course that creature is going to say, "Fuck you." I take your values so seriously that I am going to champion this thing that is actually just you, but even more
But
powerful, and
better.
is going to destroy you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that Darwinism thing, isn't it? It's that
Yeah.
Darwinism at the heart, or rather, I mean, like it's a misapprehension and a misrepresentation of Darwinism, but
Yes.
it is essential. That misapprehension is baked into capitalism, isn't it? And to
Yeah. It's
corporatism.
it's social Darwinism, not actual
Yes.
Darwinism.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
a creature of total constant hostility would not actually be very well adapted for survival.
no, of
It
course not.
it wouldn't do very well in any real
Well,
ecosystem.
in
But as I
any
say, I
ecosystem,
think
it would destroy it,
yeah,
wouldn't it? Unless it has the capacity to create its own ecosystem somehow.
yeah. But I think as I say, I think it's much better to look at the alien not as an actual creature or a
Yeah,
species or a race or anything like that, but just as a kind of a runaway pattern
yeah,
that is always different in every iteration. Every iteration of it is the product of it predating upon, consuming, adapting some other living thing, and
hmm
creating a result that is a merger of it and that other pattern that it has
yes,
consumed. Hence, actually, there is an aptness to the name that's been given to it. I don't like it, but people call
hmm
it the xenomorph.
the
Well,
xenomorph.
that's
Yes,
kind of perfect
yeah,
because xeno means different or
alien. Yeah,
strange, and morph means change.
yes,
Well, yeah, that's what it does. It
hmm
takes that which is different to it and it changes it into kind of an adaptation of itself,
yes, an
which is
expression of
I
itself. Yeah,
I can't help noticing is exactly what capital does as it
yes.
as it accumulates and turns, because that's what capital does. It
Mm.
takes the world and it turns it into more and more capital.
I mean, that
As
makes
I
the
say, I think
title quite ironic, doesn't it? Alien. I mean, you get the
yeah,
impression from the title that the horror is going to be based in it's going to be Lovecraftian, so it's going to be based in the great unknowable, the void, and this entity that is so inimical and unknown to humanity, so far apart from us, we can never get a bead on it. When in fact, it's an expression of us.
it's all too familiar actually,
It's
isn't it?
all
Yeah.
too familiar, yeah. But which
Yeah.
again is baked in. It's baked into the mythology of the creature. The fact that it does miscegenate. It kind of like, it takes on the DNA of its host and becomes an expression of it. It's all there. It's
Yes.
all baked in. It's baked into the process, which is really quite. I mean, I don't know if that was intentional. I doubt it was. but it's just
I mean,
there, isn't it?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of the thematic resonances of this were intentional or
Hmm.
conscious, but
And I think it's better. It feels purer when they're not, doesn't it? When it's just a matter of the art, the design, those wonderful collisions of things happening and creating resonance.
yes,
It's
yeah, I think
purer
so.
somehow.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a process that can just fall flat or go
Oh yeah.
wrong, but when it works like this,
Oh, it's beautiful. When it does
yeah,
work, it's absolutely beautiful. It's hard to do. It's very,
yeah.
very hard to do.
But
Um,
I mean, what it creates a text that is incredibly powerful to the point where nearly 50 years later, people are still
oh,
fascinated to the point where they want to keep telling this story. They want to keep
oh my
telling new
God.
stories set in the same universe. The trouble
It's,
is that
you know,
what you end up with a sort of constant series of bastardizations of the
that's
original purity.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Ironically
Because like
enough.
it is really frustrating because it is one of the very few of these mythologies that I think there are other stories to tell. There are other resonances to tease out. There are other creatures. There are other potentials here, but they never seem to do it. They just retell the same stuff over and over and over, but worse.
Hmm, yeah.
I mean,
As I
we
say,
had Alien Earth recently, of course.
I don't
The
know that.
oh really the TV series?
I haven't
Um,
seen it.
it's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. It has some really interesting ideas at the beginning. With regards to like there are all these questions about the notion of consciousness, like some of the very earliest synthetics or androids are created, and they are created from seemingly from the minds of dying children. So like the minds of certain dying children are somehow transmitted into the android bodies. And there are all these wonderful questions of, well, what does that mean about consciousness? You know, what is that? Have we reached some point in this state where we've identified what consciousness is, and we can sort of remove it from the processes of the brain and put it into a synthetic vessel, or is it just like an algorithm that's just copied the patterns and has just, we just
Oh,
don't know. That's kind of
that's the
cool.
yeah. I mean that's Nigel Neal again, isn't it?
Yeah, right. It's kind of cool, but it doesn't go anywhere with it. It
Yeah.
doesn't go anywhere with it. It just starts asking the questions, and then it just descends into very familiar action set pieces involving the aliens and so on and so forth. And it's like, oh, you could have gone somewhere with this. There was
Mm,
potential here, and you fluffed it. You totally
mm.
got cold feet, and you fluffed it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I mean,
irritating.
we've talked about Alien 3 before. I think Alien 3 is the next best film
Oh
in
yeah.
this series of texts.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's still it's it's not a patch on the original.
Oh no, no, and it's a different project as well. I mean, as we were
It's
saying
a
earlier,
different
it's
project,
so
yes.
far removed in terms of what it's trying to do and what it's trying to explore that
It's trying to do
it's
something more overtly political, I think.
yes.
Whereas this is going for a much broader application.
I mean, there's
It's just
existential elements to this one, isn't there? Aren't there?
yes.
Part of why it feels so cold and so part of the dread of this film is because it places the audience in this place, in this setting where you're given to question the nature of your existence, of life itself, what that means, and your positioning within it. And I mean, my God, this is a popular horror film in the 1970s,
Hmm. Hmm. No,
enjoining you to
it's
feel this way.
a
It's
Alien
amazing,
is
amazing.
really very fundamentally about just the horror of being a body, just the horror
Yeah,
of embodiment, the
yes.
inherent horror, of it. There is something inherently, when you stop to think about it, there is just
Mm.
something inherently horrible about being an embodied thing,
Oh, yes, yeah.
um,
Of
of
being
having flesh,
of
of
being
being
conscious, of being conscious
yes.
in what is effectively rotting meat.
Yeah, exactly. And
You
being
know,
so penetrable and so violable
fragile.
and yeah, and
Yeah.
the possibility of a new life form. It's kind of defamiliarization, isn't it? By taking something that seems so familiar and transmuting it into something which seems superficially different, the similarity is then actually emphasized to the point where
Mhm.
you find yourself watching this film and thinking, yeah, it is actually, now that I stop to think about it, it is actually really fucking strange and weird and kind of inherently terrifying that we grow new human beings inside us,
Mhm.
whether we're actually the one incubating the fetus, or whether we're the one producing the the semen or the sperm or
Yeah.
whatever that has to be put into
Oh
another
yeah.
person.
I mean,
You know,
it's
it,
it's
we
it's
have
weird,
bacteria living in our
and
guts, and this is, it makes you think about things like
it
that, doesn't
really
it?
does. It removes you. It deliberately like removes you from your biological processes and says, "Look at this. Look how weird and gross and strange and bizarre this is." That's
Yeah.
almost a cult. That's more bizarre than anything that Lovecraft ever like dreamed up.
Yes, I mean the alien of the title is fundamentally the self, isn't it? That
Yeah.
when you look at yourself as a body, you do feel like you're looking at an alien thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Depersonalized.
I've had that experience. I think
Yeah.
most conscious people probably
I think we
have of sort of
do.
looking at yourself in the mirror or looking at yourself in the shop window and thinking, is that me? Am I
I
inside that?
I
Is
think
that really?
it's a feature of the phenomena that is consciousness, whatever the hell that happens to be, right? It really
Yeah.
is. We find it very difficult to get a bead on what we actually are. I'm not even sure it's possible. I'm not even sure it's possible. I mean,
It's not. Yeah.
the body itself. We have that problem where we think of ourselves in these dualisms, these binaries as well, where we think
We
of
think of
our
ourselves as
body,
inside
oh,
the body, don't we?
inside our
Yes.
body, when we
Yeah.
are our bodies, right? That's we
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
are our bodies. But of
Which
course,
ties in with what you were talking about before, with the idea of sort of copying consciousness into a different
right,
body. It's a staple of science fiction. It's
of
something
course it
science
is.
fiction is absolutely obsessed with, and
It's kind of the
it
teleporter problem as well, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
it's a total
kind
chimera. The idea that you can move consciousness from one body to another. It's
Oh,
ridiculous.
if you're going to do it in your story, then that's got to be the focus. It has to be, because there's no way of getting around it. You've got to obsess over it. You've got to think about what that means, and like the process. What is it that's moving? What is it that's transferring? You know,
Yeah,
it's the problem of analyzing the notion of consciousness, isn't it? Because we are consciousnesses. So suddenly you've got a situation where you are both the subject and the instrument of analysis. It's a total contradiction. It's a total
absolutely. Yeah,
paradox. It's
yeah.
amazing, and it's the paradox of human existence. Um, which, yeah, my God, and the fact that this film enjoins you to think in this way, and it does it so
Absolutely.
elegantly.
Yeah.
It does it so elegantly. It does it without the Prometheus problem, where you've got characters that endlessly, and I mean endlessly,
Sort of
exposit.
expound on, yeah.
Yes, like look, they may as well be looking at the camera and saying, "This scene is about these themes." you know, there may be
Yeah.
subtext scrolling along saying, "By the way, they're talking about this."
And I mean, a huge chunk of what that movie's doing is just reheated Von Daniken stuff,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Hmm.
Really, it's kind of a letdown,
Yeah.
even if it does manage to raise some interesting themes and some interesting questions, and even to do so aesthetically in parts. I don't think it's a terrible movie, but
No.
it does ultimately just sort of collapse at the end
It,
into this very 70s
yes. Very much
science
so.
fiction trope.
I
Um,
think you got it right when you said that it raises these ideas. It does. It raises and references the ideas, but it thinks that's enough.
it does.
That's the problem.
Yes.
It thinks that's enough. And it thinks that
Yes.
gives it like kudos. It gives it sort of like intellectual integrity or philosophical weight, but it doesn't explore them. It doesn't go anywhere with them. And in fact, some of it's, I mean, it does really weird things. Like it
It
includes
doesn't inhabit
characters.
them, does
No,
it? It
at all. Not at all. It's window dressing. It's aesthetic only. And sometimes it's
yeah.
entirely performative. It's entirely performative. It's like, oh yes, look at me. I got the impression from watching Prometheus for the first time of being shouted at by someone drunk, who may have maybe been quite clever at one time, but has like sozzled their brain on booze or something. And it's like, yeah, okay, you're shouting ideas at me, but I don't understand. I don't know where you're going. I don't know how they all fit together because you've not given me anything. There's
Yeah.
there's no context. There's no weight to them. And then of course you get into the fun, the literary problems with it, like the problems with the story and the characters that don't go anywhere or do really dumb things for no reason. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's problematic. I think it's a beautiful film. Like aesthetically, I think it's insane. I think
Oh,
it's gorgeous.
yes. I think
Uh,
a very close analog, I think, is Blade Runner and the Blade Runner sequel that they made a
hmm.
few years ago, where there are there are aspects of the Blade Runner sequel that, I mean, parts of it look amazing,
Mhm.
but it's not ultimately got anything to say that
That's
isn't
it.
said far more inherently thoughtfully by the first movie,
By the
has it?
original,
It's
right?
just it's kind of just an exercise in somebody saying, yes, I've thought about Blade Runner.
Yeah, it's like I get it. I understand what
Yes,
Blade Runner's trying to say, and I'm going to say it back to you, but worse,
only more
less eloquently.
explicitly. Yeah,
Yeah, and Prometheus is very like that, isn't it? It's very like that
it
because
is very like that.
all of the
Yeah,
questions, all of the ideas that are raised in Prometheus very explicitly are in Alien. They're in Alien. They're
yeah.
just subtext and they're symbol and they're in between the cracks. And
Yeah.
I
Or
just wish it understood that that makes them way more engaging and way more profound.
well, Alien is from an era where I think one way of putting it would be to say that the filmmakers of that era took cinema as cinema far more seriously as an idea than filmmakers now do.
Mhm.
I feel like with all this, with all the big prestigious artistic mainstream filmmakers now, people like Christopher Nolan and
Mhm.
Villeneuve and Aronofsky and Wes Anderson and people
Yeah.
like, the sorts of people I'm talking about.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Ridley Scott has kind of become one of those people in this phase of his career. There's this feeling that they're so conscious of the idea that cinema is artistically important because it is saying things to
Yes.
you,
Yes.
that what they're engaged in doing is making films that say things. I mean,
Mhm.
we talked about this a little bit before when we talked about the Nolan Batman
Yeah.
films. The thing about being aware of analysis and criticism to the point where you know that people analyze films for themes, so you want people to analyze your films for themes, so
Yeah.
you write them and direct them to have themes, and you get to the point where you're so anxious about people not noticing the themes that you end up sort of hammering the audience over the head
Yeah.
with the themes.
You literally
There's
get characters saying this film is about themes, by the way.
exactly.
Here are the themes that the film is about.
There's an awful lot of films now that I read the reviews and people saying, "Oh, it's just such a clever film because it's about this, that, and the other." And you go and watch it,
Mhm.
and what you get is the film essentially reviewing itself in front of you, and it says, "Oh, I'm a clever film because I'm about
Yes.
X, Y, and Z." And all the
That's
reviewer
it.
has done is kind of transcribe what the film told them it's about.
Yeah.
I felt that way about Black Swan. I
Mhm.
felt that way about a lot of these sorts of films. And I think filmmakers in the 70s, if you look at the 70s work of people like Ridley Scott and people like even films that I don't actually rate tremendously
Mhm.
highly, like The Exorcist or
Yeah.
other films that we've talked about, there just seems to be there just seems to be more faith in cinema to just do that stuff by itself.
Yes,
You know,
yes, and
if
audiences, right? There's more faith in audiences to just get it, to
yeah,
understand without being told endlessly and in great detail what the
yes.
film is about.
But if you can just make a beautiful film that is cogent and interesting in itself,
Hmm.
the artistry of content will be taken care of by form. I think
Yes.
that's what you see in something like Alien, isn't it? You
Yeah.
see content generated by form
Mhm.
rather than form which has been designed in an attempt to express
To
content.
convey content to you. Yes, that's absolutely it. That is absolutely it. It's that wonderful interplay between image and dialogue and just all the elements of cinema coming together and the audience finding meaning in between all of it, in the process of experience. It's so, I mean, it's a wonderful thing, but
Yeah.
it is something that's lost, isn't it? It seems to be a lost art.
A lot of the time, yeah. I think
Not
there are still
always,
people
yeah,
practicing this. I think the
yeah.
Coen brothers still
Hmm.
practice something like the old way of doing things.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think there's a reason why that era of cinema is thought of as the golden age. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, totally, totally. I think, when you said that there's so much in, particularly, very popular cinema at the moment, where it's so conscious of itself. It's just so aware of it's got to be about ideas, it's got to be about themes, it's got to be about this or that, but it's
Mm,
got to convey that so forcibly.
yeah, and there's nothing. It's perfectly possible to go in wanting to make a film with all sorts of thematic dimensions and being very conscious about
Yeah.
what you want it to express. There's nothing about that that necessarily entails getting lost in that effort to the detriment of the aesthetics.
Not at all. I mean, I think of films that have very, very specific messages and ideas that they are intent on conveying and are massively successful. I think of things like Threads, for example, you know,
Hmm.
whose message is unambiguous. I mean, it's completely unambiguous. It's one of those films that is that there is only like one way of reading it, and that's it. Um, but it does it so incredibly successfully because of its force, because of its purity.
Because of its aesthetic
Yeah,
power.
yeah.
Yeah,
There is
it
nothing
lets
else to it, right?
it yeah, it's cinema is fundamentally a big revelation coming. It's
Yeah.
a visual
It's a
medium,
visual
um,
medium, right?
but that is going to be the basis of its power. It's the
Mhm.
basis of its power is going to be visual combined with other elements, of course, like
Yes.
music and sound design and so on.
Cinematography.
I just feel like a filmmaker's first concern should just be what it looks like.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it should, it just should. It should
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
be about telling stories visually on a
Hmm.
fundamental level. And if you find that you are essentially telling stories verbally,
Hmm.
but with pictures, I think you're just
Yes.
fundamentally doing cinema wrong.
Right. Yeah. Go write a book. Right. Go write
Yeah,
a book or something. I mean,
yeah,
which is all
exactly.
words. You are
Yeah,
so missing the point if you're doing it that way.
yeah.
Um, I mean, it's the understanding of why certain camera shots evoke particular atmospheres or emotions in the audience, or why certain camera movements work for particular framings of scenes and whatnot. It's it's a very particular art, isn't it?
Mm,
It really is. And you
yeah.
can tell so much. You can tell so much. I mean, in this film, there's the sequences later on when Ripley is moving through the corridors of the Nostromo, and by that point, it's almost like reality is breaking down as well, because like nothing makes any sense. It's a bit Shining in that regard, you know. It deliberately you
There
are
are
left.
lots of similarities,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God. Yeah. I mean, I said in the chat earlier that I can't help but draw similarities between the two of them, because I think they're talking about different things, but they're doing so in kind of similar ways. I find, if The Shining is a big diseased mind that's driven mad by the atrocities of history, then this is a womb,
Yes,
you know?
yeah.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. There's something much more physical and material about Alien.
But they're
Um,
both fundamentally telling stories with huge themes and huge imports
yeah.
about vast things from sort of humanity, from the literally from the guts outwards
Yes.
to the to right the way out to the extent of our centuries and centuries of history. They're both doing that essentially by telling stories about people trapped inside environments, aren't they?
Yes.
They're
Environments that
both
are
doing that.
hostile. It's
Yes.
fascinating, isn't it? Environments that are haunted, but not in a conventional way. The Overlook is haunted by history, and so is the Nostromo in its own peculiar way. It's haunted by the history of capitalism and corporatism and all those awful and exploitation, obviously. I mean, I wonder if the planets that it was mining or inhabited in any particular way.
Well, even if they weren't, I mean,
Mm,
it again, it's a pattern that goes from place to place and predates upon what it finds, the
yeah,
raw material that it finds. It sort of inserts itself
yeah,
and takes it over and merges with it and ends up reducing it to just a kind of a meaningless pattern. That's what the alien does to
yeah.
humans.
Oh, absolutely. And by
The
interfering,
Nostromo is just inherently kind of an iteration of the same process as the
yes,
alien.
yeah, and in its own peculiar way, on a vaster scale as well. I mean, if it interferes in the environments of alien worlds in the way that it seems to, then surely unsettles those ecosystems in really profound ways. I mean, it
Mm.
wouldn't surprise me in the least if there's like awful byproducts of what it does during its mining and refining process.
But it, but
Chemicals
it,
and
I mean, that's just the industrial process, isn't it? The
yeah,
industrial
right.
process just inherently does that. Yeah. But even if the worlds that it's strip mining and reducing to rubble and pulp, even if they are just rocks,
Mm,
that's just how the alien looks at us. It just
yeah,
looks upon us as raw material.
yeah,
And if we look at an asteroid that we want to mine as just well, it's just a rock. That thing just looks at us as just a sack of nutrients to
yeah.
be to do whatever the fuck it wants, whatever it does do with us.
Well, it's one of the more
Yeah,
interesting
whatever
elements
that
as well,
is.
isn't it? Because it's not evil, is it? You know,
It's not evil. No,
it's
no.
not malevolent. It's just
Except that it is part human. The one that's on the ship is
yes,
partly human, isn't it?
that's
It is
true.
Kane's son. It is a merging of that pattern with the human pattern. The one
Mm,
we see is the pattern having adapted itself via merging with a human. So
yes.
if it has characteristics like cruelty, like sadism,
Mm,
like voyeurism, like the
yes.
desire to rape and exercise power, then that
Then
might
that
just
makes
as
it
easily
evil.
come from us. So
Yeah.
what are we really talking about here? Are we talking about the horror of the alien, or are we talking about the horror of the compatible?
Oh
That's what we're
wow. I
really
mean, there's such an interesting way this series could have gone in that regard, isn't there? If we
yeah.
found out that the hostile and violent elements in the alien, the xenomorph, if you like, come from us.
Yeah.
What if you
Yeah, I
find
mean
an
it's
ecosystem where they are not like that, where the creatures produced are not hostile and murderous and rapine?
well, I think one sort of analogy would be syphilis, for instance.
Mm,
Syphilis, of course, is very apt because it's a sexually transmitted disease, and it's very tied up with the history of human civilization, the
civilization, yeah.
the rise of capitalism, the rise of the primitive accumulation period, which again, as we've said in the previous show, is directly referred to with the
What
name
is it
and various things.
Van
It's
Helsing says in Bram Stoker's Dracula? Civilization and civilization have advanced together.
I love it. Yeah,
It's great, isn't
absolutely.
it? Right?
Well, that's kind of, a virus is kind of an alien pattern that
Hmm.
gets into us physically and adapts us as raw material whereby it reproduces us.
Yeah.
And the takeover of the body is a kind of emerging. And if you look at syphilis as an example, for instance, what does it do? It gets into I mean, there's Vonnegut's famous description of it as lots of little corkscrews that burrow through the
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
It can cause, there's theories about Adolf Hitler being partly
Mm.
motivated by the fact that he was suffering from syphilis. I don't know if that's true or not,
Mm.
but syphilis can cause changes in human behavior. So,
Yes.
if a person catches syphilis and those little corkscrews burrow through his brain and he turns into a tyrant or a murderer or a rapist or whatever, is the virus to blame? Because it's
Right.
not, it's just a
Yeah.
pattern. It's just a
It's just
pattern
right.
reproducing itself.
It's mindless and
What's
without intent, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It's just the perfect organism. It
Right.
it it, it just wants to reproduce.
In fact, part of the perfection is the lack of consciousness, isn't it? That's part. It's innate.
Yes,
It's innate to the
yes,
definition, right? Because with
yes,
consciousness comes ambiguity, comes doubt,
yes.
comes imagination.
Well, I mean,
Um,
Ash puts it specifically. Ash says conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality.
yes, yes,
He's, his vision is an amoral, nihilistic one, but he's saying
mm,
essentially this much prized humanity of yours, it's smoke and mirrors, it's delusion,
right,
it's a story
yeah.
you tell yourselves, it's not real,
It's
and it's
not
actually
real.
it makes you
Yeah,
weak.
yeah,
This thing it doesn't have any of these pretensions to
right.
being a person, being a self.
Hmm.
It's just a pattern.
Yeah.
And of course, the unspoken implication is that that's all we are too.
Yes, we
We
just
just
delude
refuse to
ourselves
admit it. Yeah,
otherwise. Yeah,
yeah,
we like
exactly.
to think of
Yeah,
ourselves as special.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's one of the really thorny little tensions of the film, isn't it? Because I can see why he thinks that. There is
Well,
a terrible purity to
he
it, isn't there?
yes, he was made by humans operating in that mode, wasn't he?
Hmm.
He is a
Hmm.
product of humans acting as if that is the case.
Yes, I mean, but even not taking that into account and just looking at the alien and other entities that echo it, that it's informed by, there is a part of us, a part of all human beings, I think, that would like to be less conscious,
Oh
that would
yeah,
like to
absolutely.
just be, to act on impulse and instinct and not have to think about things.
Well, we take substances into ourselves to try to achieve that, don't we?
Yeah, of
We whether
course.
it's drink or drugs or whatever,
Yeah,
or things like extreme sports. Even we're
yeah,
or just sitting down and reading a book. We're consciously trying to obliterate ourselves, obliterate our sense of
yeah.
self, obliterate our sense of consciousness of ourselves all the time.
Well,
And part
interestingly,
of that,
given the themes and the imagery of this film, sex is part of that. We
yes,
that's what we experience in sex. We lose all of our everything we are just for a brief moment goes
yeah, and I think
away.
that's a big part of what this film is getting at. So with that whole thing about the horror of embodiment, a
Mm,
lot of that is just it's just sex is just this kind of loss of self, isn't it?
yeah,
It's this kind of loss of all those pretensions about what we are
yeah.
just disappear,
They
and we just
disappear for the
become like,
moment.
yeah, vessels for carrying and reproducing and transmitting gametes,
Hmm. Yeah,
patterns reproducing themselves as pure patterns.
endlessly.
Yeah.
And there is, I mean, like obviously, there is something really desirable about that.
There's something desirable about it, and it's kind of alienating and horrifying at the same time as it
Hmm.
is something obviously,
Yeah,
just look
I
at how we
mean,
behave.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this film markets it as something nihilistic. Obviously, it's the total obliteration of self, and it becomes violent and hostile in that process. But it doesn't necessarily have to be.
No, sure, but in this world it is, isn't
In
it?
this
In this
world,
world of
yes,
complete, yeah,
yeah,
complete
totally.
utility, where everybody's an employee and everybody's
Mm.
in this
Everyone's a
power structure.
resource. Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It has to
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
right. It has to be. There's
Yeah.
nothing else. Um, and again, that's very Lovecraftian. That's
It is
very
too. Yeah.
Lovecraft.
Yeah. Well, not not the sort of conscious anti-corporate side of it, but
Mm,
yeah, no, it's an adaptation of that. Yeah.
mhm. Wow, my God.
Huge film.
I mean,
Huge film. Totemic.
I feel like we haven't even like
Not even begun.
not even begun, you know. But I don't think I can continue. I think, and I loved watching it again. I watched it
Mm.
again this
It's
afternoon,
just
and
so, yeah, it's so good. It's just so
it's
enjoyable. The
so
music is
good.
fantastic. The production design, the performances. It's an aesthetic triumph. It
It's
is. Ian
emotional as
Holmes'
well, isn't it?
performance.
It's like
Yeah.
so emotional. Like I was shaking watching it, sometimes with fear, sometimes with tension.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
oh my God, it's amazing.
Well, the scene with Dallas in the pipes. I've seen this film God knows how many times.
Yeah,
Every single time I'm shouting at the screen,
yeah.
move,
Move,
move
for
for God's
God's
sake.
sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so brilliantly done. Often parodied, never bettered.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Alien.
Lovely.
Yeah. Brilliance. Absolute brilliance. I mean, I feel like we may have reached like an apex in this series with our subject matter. Obviously we're going to do more, but my God, it's going to be difficult finding anything like this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is in a class of its own.
Yeah.
It just
It's one of
is.
those pieces of material that ruins you.
Yeah,
Completely
nothing
ruins
else
you.
ever
Nothing is
seems quite.
quite as good, is
Yeah,
it?
I
Nothing is
mean,
quite as good.
we've talked in planning this series in the back channel. We've talked about
Mm.
doing Event Horizon, for
Yeah,
instance. Event Horizon's fun, but
it's great.
it's
But
compared to this,
oh my
it's
God, I mean,
nothing.
like,
It's nothing.
there is no comparison. No, it's just not.
No.
It's just not. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Event Horizon to bits. Love it to bits. I think it's a great fun film.
Yeah.
But
I think we need to let some time go by. Maybe
I
that's the
think
thing.
so. I think and do something else in between to soften,
Yes.
to soften the impact a little bit. I mean, that's a question. What should we do next? What do you think the next piece should be?
I don't know. Obviously, we need to consult
Yeah, of course.
our colleague.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
I was gonna throw the fly in there.
the Fly. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I'd love to
Oh,
have
I
another look
love
at
that
that. It's been a
film. I
long
mean, it's
time.
fucking gross. It's a
Yeah,
horrible
yeah.
film.
Great movie though.
It's
Yeah,
superb. I mean, it's absolutely stunning, but my God, I have to work up to watching that one because it makes me feel sick.
yeah. That is icky. That is icky.
Yeah. And I know
But I love
you
that
don't
it's so.
you don't necessarily like the grue or the gore or whatever, do you?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not in it for that. If you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Some
Yeah.
people are. Some people are very
Oh yeah.
definitely in the horror movie game
Mm.
for that, and that's never been my thing.
Yeah.
But if the film warrants it, I can stand
Yeah.
it. And I think the thing about The Fly is that it's so grounded in wonderful characterization and
Yeah.
essentially a tragic love story, isn't
Yeah.
it? And
Yeah. I mean, Jeff
it
Goldblum is
makes
awesome in that film. I mean,
yeah,
he's so charming and sympathetic, and it
yes,
makes what happens to him awful.
yeah. The Fly, blimey.
Yeah,
Long
wow.
time since I saw that, but
It has been
that
a
is a
while.
terrific
It has been a
film.
while, but yeah.
No, I think that's a great idea. Yeah,
Right,
subject to Rob's
I'll put it
approval.
I'll put it
Yeah,
to Elliot and see what he says. Um
that's definitely Rob Elliott. Same thing.
yeah.
That's definitely sci-fi horror. Yeah, so
Yeah,
totally, totally.
fantastic. Well, before we go, as per usual, anything you want to throw out into the ether?
Oh well, bursting from my chest, the bloody phallic mess that is my recommendations. We didn't even talk about the fucking birth scene, did
No,
we?
we didn't. No, I mean, what I would say is it's one of have you? I mean, it's one of those things where I've read so many accounts from people who were, they were alive at the time and old enough to see it at the cinema, and before anyone knew what was going on. No one had seen the film, and there are accounts of people vomiting in the aisles at that sequence.
I love it. I hope that's
Yeah,
true. I
I
truly hope that's
sincerely
true.
hope it's true, and
Yeah.
I envy like my parents being able to go and see this at the cinema and not knowing
Oh,
what they were going to see.
I have actually seen this at the cinema. I
Oh
saw
wow.
a re-release. It was not my first viewing, obviously,
Mm,
many years after my first viewing, which was on poor old rickety VHS.
yes.
But although it was widescreen, I did see it
Right.
in widescreen very first time, which is good. But yeah, I saw this. I think it was re-released on one of the anniversaries for a limited run at the
My
cinema, and I
God.
have seen it on the big screen.
Envious.
Um, yeah, it's yeah. I mean, first viewing of this, my God, as I say, there were very. I didn't know what I was in for because I'd seen the
Right.
second one and liked it, so I watched this, and life changing. It's that's a
Yeah.
big thing to say, but it is life changing.
Oh yeah.
These little moments where you suddenly realize, wow, films can do this. That's
Films
amazing.
can be this. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
wow. 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 I
yeah,
mean, we didn't even to really talk about how like Giga went on to become this icon. You know, people came to know Giga's work because of this.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it must have been very good for his career. I know
Oh
he
yeah.
did not have a good time making the film because he was he did have friction with
Yeah.
Ridley Scott, although he got on very well with his fellow special effects people.
Oh yeah.
But
I mean, have you
they
seen
were
the video footage
this
of him
is
scrabbling all over the set, climbing up the space jockey and like
yeah, yeah.
sculpting bits and pieces onto it?
Yeah, yeah, and he of course he was very disappointed in a lot of what actually made it on screen because
Mm.
his ideas largely did not end up on screen because of
No,
budgetary constraints. He
there's
wanted to,
loads of stuff that he designed that was never implemented, never created.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean the cockpit, if we must call it that, which for
Mm.
me is that is the central moment of the film for me. That shot where Kane is climbing up into the, for want of a better term, cockpit, and it pulls
Yeah,
back, and you get that amazing jagged musical cue from Jerry Goldsmith, who's doing this
yeah.
amazing musique concrete thing, and it pulls back and back and back, and just this. I mean,
Right. I think that's the moment.
nothing in cinema is like that
No,
before
it
this.
isn't. It
Nothing.
really isn't. And it's totally
Yeah,
incidental as well. You can take that out and the film still just rolls along as it does.
it
It's not
it still works
significant.
narratively without that,
Yeah.
but visually and
But
thematically, that is just the
wow.
epicenter of the film for
Yeah.
me. And
It's
yeah,
amazing. I mean, it's such a moment. I think that's the moment in the film when you realize, oh wow,
yeah, we
this is
are.
something else.
This is actually. I do feel like I'm experiencing something alien. I feel
Yeah.
something like, I might feel if I were having some kind of contact with an alien
Yeah.
civilization.
I
And that's,
feel like unsettled. I feel like I'm not quite anchored anymore,
yeah, yeah.
which is, I
It's
mean,
almost
brilliant.
unbelievable
Yeah,
when you look at it on
brilliant.
screen.
I mean,
Yeah,
give me all of that as from any media really, but certainly from horror. Give me all of that. That's what I want.
absolutely.
That's what I
Yes,
want.
yes. But as I was saying, even that shot is about a half what Giga wanted. If you look at his
Yeah,
original conceptual sketches, the room is about twice the size, and it's got these gigantic sort of bulging
yeah,
belly-like things up the walls, and these tongues sticking
yeah,
out. And but they again, like this. Like the original Star Wars, as we were saying, relatively speaking, this is quite a cheap movie. They were
yeah.
always fending off producers saying,
Oh,
make it
I
cheaper,
know.
cut
I
this,
mean,
cut that. And
apparently, this is one of the films where Ridley Scott really earned his reputation as being ferocious and very, very unpleasant. He was endlessly telling the money people to get the fuck off the set. Yeah,
well, I kind
yeah.
of, I don't blame him,
I
but
do kind of
yeah,
admire that. I've got to say, there's part of me
yeah.
that's like, yeah, fuck these assholes. You know, absolutely. Uh,
But yeah, we were trying to wrap up. So
yes, yes. So yes,
my stuff is all findable on Blue Sky at Times Carcass, at Eruditorium Press under my name, obviously Jack Graham. My Patreon, $1 a month gets you access to everything. And the main thing that I do is the podcast I Don't Speak German, which I do with Daniel Harper, which is about the far right, which these days is just the government.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's happy, isn't it?
It's just daily news today, isn't it? It's whatever you
Yeah, the
wake up with.
company.
Yeah. Yeah. As for myself,
I
guys, oh, by
really,
the
I
way,
really
all of
resent.
Jack's
By
stuff
the
is
way,
down below, by the way. All of links,
I,
all the
I
links.
I really resent that the world war I'm going to have to live through is fucking stupid.
Like I
I
said,
mean,
temper tantrum, proper, unambiguous, throwing things against the wall temper tantrums at the moment.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Because
it's like I was watching some political program on YouTube, the way I will insist upon doing for reasons I don't know. And, Trump comes up and he's at some event and he's talking about, you know, he starts going through his shtick and he starts talking about men in women's sports and children being taken out of school to be quote and I quote mutilized. And I'm thinking, you just murdered 180 Iranian schoolgirls.
yeah. It's not
What
enough,
the fuck are you?
Yeah,
For no reason at all.
To quote Peter
This
Cook,
war
it's not enough to keep the mind alive, is it?
no. This war is happening for no reason at all. America doesn't have war aims in this.
Right.
Israel does, but America
Yeah,
doesn't.
but America doesn't. Yeah, it's
This
mad.
is this is happening for because Trump thinks it'll make him look cool and hard. This is it.
That's it.
I expect wars to be tragic and awful and pointless. I resent that they're now fucking stupid
Yeah,
as well,
they are
on top of
this
everything else.
fucking dumb. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I would, I could welcome an apocalypse that is smarter than this, that is more
Yeah.
poetic than this. I
Could it at
really
least
could.
have sort of melancholy, tragic dimensions instead of just being the stupidest dumb fuckery imaginable?
Yeah. Yeah, I resent having to live through this fucking stupidity and like over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like the Groundhog Day of imbeciles, isn't it? It's
Yeah. Every day some fresh indignity,
yes, yeah,
poured upon the entire species.
yes, yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry.
As for myself, guys, you can find me here on Exaggerated Elegy. Lots of chats like this. There's also lots of video game Let's Plays up at the moment. For my published work, my short stories and collections and whatnot, go to strangeplaygrounds.com or the Evil Empire of Amazon. The Evil Empire of Amazon. Yeah, that's a spoonerism for you. You know what I meant. And type in George Daniel Lee and you'll find my author page and links to all the stuff I've been published in. There's a big My Life in Horror coming out over at Ginger Nuts of Horror very soon, which could be interesting. Well, it could be very interesting, actually. I'm looking forward to getting some lashback on that one. I do love attacking sacred cows of culture. I really do. Especially
Sacred Cow Slaughterhouse.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I should have called it that. God, that would be great. I might write one later and call it that. And I think for now, that's it for me, actually. We'll be back relatively soon. I mean, would you like to record the horror at Red Hook at some point relatively soon?
Yeah, sorry, I delayed that.
No, not at all. Not at all. But
yes.
I've had time to reread and listen to it and sort of settle for the sediment of that one to settle now. Because I think it's very easy to just react to that one.
Yeah.
Very easy to just react to that one. But that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun.
I can't do Thursday, but most other days are open. So yeah, let me know.
Excellent. I will throw some dates your way. But thanks, Jack. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. And thank you for listening, guys. Until next time.
Ha ha ha.